We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Antry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. Welcome back, Tom. And right away, I want to say thank you to both Lee Overstreet and Joe Klusnick for guest co-hosting with me last week.
Two people to replace me. One of them is, I think, imaginary. Joe's a real guy. I don't know about the other person.
It does take two people to replace you and to make the podcast go nearly 3 hours, which was absolutely not the plan.
Why can you not be trusted on your own? That's the real question.
There was so much news. You'll be glad we don't have to go. I put it in there so that you won't be left behind, and you can check the links on your own time, Tom. But there was much news. I mean, it's stuff you'll want to know exists.
I'm sure it's very fascinating, and it will somehow seep into my brain somehow.
Massive amounts of product announcements. It was wild times.
Yes. So what was happening last week? That's right. I had a training that I went to, which was. I was the only person. I don't know that I was the only person that fell asleep. I was the only person who snored.
Oh, no.
So
was this like a meeting setting or like a conference room setting?
It was like at a hotel. You know, they usually set these things up at hotel, like little conference rooms or whatever. There's like eight or nine people in there. It was really small, and it's all about.
So you couldn't hide amongst the crowd.
No, I was not hiding amongst the crowd. Apparently I dozed off for just a second. I just went. And I woke up.
Oh, I see. It was a snort. It was a snort,
yes. So, but that's not my fault because the material wasn't very exciting to begin with.
You don't say.
He was not making it any better. I'll put it to you that way. I see. There was a way to make this more exciting, and it was not achieved. So, but I did learn a couple of things, and I spent a lot of time wondering why I was sitting in this very, very, very cold room because it was freezing in there. They had the AC down at like 60 something. And I'm like, what is happening? And here, why can I see my breath? But maybe they're trying to keep me awake, but that's not how that works.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, I was doing a training. A couple of updates. Those of you, I don't know if you announced it on the podcast last week, but my TV is now fixed. Finally.
I did. Yes. In fact, let's bring up that image just to remind folks. Yeah,
yes, there's a YouTube video that I had on so that I could calibrate the. I had it going in the background so I could calibrate the SDR.
Gotcha.
Because it defaults to SDR for YouTube, and then I would go to Peacock or Disney for the HDR to calibrate that. I was still kind of running through it. You can see there's my speakers are on like whatever end tables that people had like donated to us. I still haven't bought stands yet. There's a bunch of panels that are just on the ground sitting behind everything up there. There's also a bunch behind my couch. I will say, since this picture was taken, I have finally hung up 3 panels in my room. These panels that you see here are all going to be taken apart so that I can take the insulation out and build my own panels of the size and the depth that I want. These are all 2-inch panels, and I want them to be deeper.
Yes.
Thicker I also would want them to be taller.
And at some point, the height of your front left speaker will probably match the height of your front right speaker.
One would think. That will be a goal. Yes. So yes, and you can see the window on the left there is going to be problematic. I don't know what I'm going to do about that thing. I'm probably just going to cover it with a panel. No, I'm just going to cover it with a panel because I don't want there to be a curtain there. Mostly because I want that entire front wall to be panels if I can.
Well, I mean, I would just put a curtain that goes across the whole front wall. It doesn't have to only be over the window. It's a very nice look having a curtain that goes all the way across your front wall.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say and hard for me to do. So I will. We will see, but I have hung up the 3 of the small, those 2x2 panels that have the art on them that I got from Andrew's wife. If you guys remember the Star Wars art, so those are all hung up in a line. I got them centered in the little space. There's like a space between a window and the back wall on the back right of the on the side wall on the back right of the theater. and there's just enough space there for, to have a little space on either side. And I hung all of them in a vertical line, and I got them all straight and even, and I'm very proud of myself. And yes, I will be patting myself on the back. Rob will probably be showing you very quickly here a picture of a couple of things I ordered.
Yes, I was going to ask if we mentioned these as well, but those SP2000 Pro subs, have they been unpacked from their boxes?
They are still in that box. They were going to get unpacked yesterday instead of I hung the panels, because I am not, I don't have cables for them, I don't think. I have to go figure out what I have and what I don't have. It's one of those things where it's like, I know I've got a gigantic stack of RCA cables somewhere, so I'm not buying new ones, gosh darn it, but finding that stack. I know I had a giant stack of RCA cables. I don't know if that giant stack survived the flood or not.
Exactly.
So that's what I have rear, and that means going back to the house. And also, where one of these subwoofers is going to go, I need to put a ladder so I can put the rear height speaker up there. So I don't want to put the subs in there until I have already hung the speakers, which is forthcoming. That was also one of my plans for last night, but instead I had to pick my son up from school because he stayed extra late and my wife was gone. So yes, that was all done. Very exciting. So things are moving around here. Something Rob does not know, since the last time of this podcast, my wife came home from work and said, our water bill is really high. And the lady at the place said that it might be because we have a leak. And so we started doing some testing and research, and we had some plumbers come out and stuff, and leak detection company and everything. And we do in fact have a leak.
Oh God.
And it is in fact underneath the floor in our kitchen. So luckily it's not under a cabinet, or maybe not luckily. We'll see how this works out. But it is to the right of our cabinets. No one can figure out why there's a pipe there. They're like, why is there a pipe here? Like, this doesn't make sense to have a pipe here. And I'm like, there's a lot of things about this house that doesn't make sense. So they were supposed to come today, but my wife said, no, that's podcast day. They really wanted to come on Tuesday because you know how Tuesdays are. So they are coming tomorrow, and they're going to set up a little tent in my kitchen / living room area. And they're going to jackhammer through the floor to get to the pipe to fix the leak.
So, I mean, no basement in this house, I would assume.
No,
Florida
of course
house.
not. It's Florida. The water table is like 18 inches below the ground.
And I assume they would have looked for an outdoor spigot in that area.
Yes, Rob. That the three professional plumbers we had over did not think to do that. Thank you for mentioning it.
I don't know.
I'll call them back out.
These days, I'm not sure. I think you have to ask the pedantic questions, because it sure seems like a lot of people can't do their jobs anymore.
So, there's a meter out front of the house in the ground, right? So you take the cover off and you look at it, and there's like a big dial and an itty bitty dial. A little itty bitty dial that looks like a gear, kind of shows you like the micro usage. So once we figured that out through Google and talking to people, we would look at this little dial, and it would be moving, and so that means that there's the water running someplace in the house.
Something is flowing, yeah.
So we talked to our because our tenant is attached to our
sure.
our water as well. So we kind of we turned off the water to the house, which turned off the water to her apartment as well.
Okay.
And the little thing stopped moving. I'm like, okay, so it's past that point. So then we start going in and doing all the tests on the toilets, and did the test on her toilet, and looked around for. It's funny how I watched the one of the plumbers go around. He did all the same things I did.
Sure.
Like felt the spigots in the bathrooms and the bathtubs and the sinks and stuff like that, and see if any of them were wet from drips, and went upstairs, checked out the tenant and stuff like that. And then the one thing I did, I was like, you know what? There's a hot water intake for the hot water heater. I turned that off, and when I turned that off, the little gear thing stopped moving. So we were like, okay, it's someplace, it past past the hot water heater. So
okay.
After the hot water heater is where the leak is. So the leak detection company, they came out, and he's like, once I told him that, he was like, oh, well, this is going to be easy. And he grabbed his little heat gun thingy, and thermal imager, sure enough, there is and we never would have found this because we don't walk around without shoes on in our house. We have like slippers or whatever, whatever. And on top of this, it was right to the right of the cabinets, and we had put a dog bed there, and the dogs were always lying on top of this one spot that is apparently always very warm.
Even more so, cats would have found that very quickly. They like it even more than the doggies do.
So so if you go over there after we've turned the hot water off, that spot feels like everything else. But when we turn the hot water on, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but quickly, that spot warms up. So that's the spot they will be digging in tomorrow. So brand new house. Let's all talk about that. So far I got a brand new TV, which immediately broke. I got a brand new house, which immediately broke.
And it literally was new construction. It wasn't just new to you. It was new construction.
It was new construction, yeah. But it had been sitting for a couple of years, but at the same time.
No, but still,
Yes, it was new construction. So yes, we're very excited about all this. The first quote was very, very high to get it fixed. The second quote was disturbingly low and ambiguous. Kind of like probably take a couple of hours. It's going to be this much an hour plus whatever parts. I'm like, I don't like that. You need to be more specific.
This is a free-to-play plumbing job. All you have to pay for is the optional add-ons.
That's right. So the third quote was kind of smack dab in the middle, and we were like, "Oh, thank you."
Okay.
Mostly because I said, "Listen, we just need to make sure that we are going with a big enough company that we can sue the crap out of if we have to. Not some fly-by-night people, and also look at reviews and all these other things." We did as much due diligence as anyone probably would do, and this will be transpiring next week. So we'll find out next week whether or not this has been fixed or not, and what the eventual outcome will be.
Where that leaking hot water has been going, because it went somewhere.
It
was coming out of there.
No one knows where it's gone, but it's gone someplace. So that's what's. I'm sure there's other things that's been going on around here. We had some friends come in for stay the night this weekend, which was lovely. We sat in the TV room. I won't call it the home theater because it's not quite there yet. With the new TV and only 2 speakers that were working. That center channel that you see up there is plugged in, but it doesn't keep up with the other 2 speakers right now. I haven't level matched it or anything. So whenever something comes out of the center channel, all of a sudden you can't hear anything. It's too low.
Kind of an important one. If you're gonna have a center, make sure it's a good one. That's
and then I don't think this one's not a good one. It just hasn't been level matched.
Right. Exactly.
So we sat there, and we would mute the commercials on NBC or whatever, Peacock or whatever it is. We would mute the commercials as they were going on, and they were almost all drug commercials because it's the United States, and that's how money's made, apparently. And we would try to guess what the drug was treating based on the commercial alone.
Okay. Yes.
So I don't think we were right a single time, but we had a grand old time doing it. So
I do enjoy those commercials that are like, ask your doctor about whatever by brand name, and they haven't told you what it's for. It's like, why would I go to my doctor and ask about a prescription medication? The what it treats, I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and ask my doctor. Why would you leave it so mysterious? Those people look like they were having
fun in the commercial, so I would like to have fun like those people in the commercials. Can I start taking this drug?
Bizarre.
It is a insane marketing campaign. I don't know how they're making money, but clearly they are.
It turned out that for me, asking about medications for pregnant women by name, it wasn't entirely applicable to my own situation. Just had to find that out after booking a doctor's appointment, though.
So what's been going on with you, Rob?
So we've had some goings on with 2 of my aunts. Behind the scenes there. It happened to coincide at the same time, but I think we've got things settled back down over the weekend, so that's good. Nothing too crazy at any time, but had some unplanned trips out to the adjoining city next to me there, so I had that going on last week. But more important than that, this actually happened prior to recording last week's episode, but we had so much to get through, I didn't even talk about it. I have finalized the setup of my parents' Sofabaton X2 Remote.
I thought you mentioned that already.
That's right. Yeah, I mentioned I was going to do that when you were here last, and I did do that, but I didn't talk about it last week. So I'll talk about it this week because we don't have quite as gigantic a pile of content, we don't think, to get through this week. So yeah, the main sticking point, the thing that was holding me up is they are subscribed to what is now Rogers Cable in Canada. It used to be Shaw Cable, but Rogers, the company, purchased Shaw, the company, so it is now Rogers Cable, but it's still... They still have kind of a separate Shaw subgroup, even though officially it doesn't exist anymore. But when you're signing in, you can't just sign into the Rogers website. You have to sign into the Rogers Together with Shaw website, which is the same login information, but a different website. Just fantastically, flawlessly smooth transition that they did with all of that. But they still have the equipment that came from Shaw, which Rogers is still fully supporting, but that's what my parents are using. So... with that one, the remote that comes with that Shaw cable box communicates with the box via radio frequency. It's not Bluetooth, it's RF.
Right.
And so the Sofabaton X2 can do RF communication.
It only has like two options, though, right? When you set up
two
RF
frequency bands. Yeah, two frequency bands. And so... when I tried to do that setup, because I'm like, hey, that would be convenient. That's the way that the original remote communicates. I tried doing that radio frequency setup. And so when you do that, it's not like when you're setting up an IR or even a Bluetooth device. There's no inputting the brand and then choosing the specific model number. It's just like, hey, choose from one of these two RF frequencies, try some basically generic commands. You're supposedly able to learn from the original radio frequency remote to do that. And so the very first time I did that, a couple of the buttons worked, like a couple out of several dozen. But a couple of the buttons at least got a response. And I was like, well, this is going to be exceedingly tedious to try and learn all the things. And the learning of the original radio frequency from the original remote, like that was not working smoothly whatsoever. It would maybe detect a button here or there, but yeah, absolutely was not a smooth process. So I was like, okay, can I use infrared? And thankfully, yes, the little cable box that they have, which is honestly just a little Ethernet connection to your regular internet router, because it's all coming over IP, whether it's cable or streaming or not. But anyway, it can accept infrared commands, and since the Sofabaton hub is right there, it's very reliable. You know, it's more than direct line of sight. They're right beside each other. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this via IR. And the cable box, the specific brand and model that they have, was in Sofabaton's database. And so if you're setting up a Sofabaton, before you go ahead and say, yep, that's the device I want, and you download all of those codes, you can, in the app that you're using on your phone or your tablet, test all of the buttons prior to make sure that it really is the correct code base. And when I tested all of those buttons, they all worked. They all worked as expected. Everything was good. I was like, well, the names line up, all of the test commands worked, and yeah, so go ahead, download that to my Sofabaton X2 remote, and we should be good to go. But of course, after doing that, and this is the only device in my parents' setup where this was the case, but after doing that, I'm testing the buttons on the Sofabaton remote itself, I'm testing them in the app, and they don't work anymore. The up button on the directional pad works, but none of the other directional pad buttons work, and the OK button doesn't work, and the channel up and down doesn't work, like really basic stuff. But really strange, because they worked when I tested it prior to downloading it, and then somehow after downloading it and actually finalizing the device setup, the buttons didn't work. And I was like, that is really, really strange. Also suggests that the commands are in the database somewhere. How could I have tested it prior to downloading and had it function if the codes literally don't exist in the database? But it was going to be a problem because since the original remote is RF, there's no way to learn the infrared commands if they aren't in the database. I was like,
right.
So I was bonking my head against the wall for, an hour or two trying to get that to work. So I found, and look, this is me. I should have read about this. I sort of searched for this or something like that, but maybe not everybody knows it because I didn't know it. Obviously, you're doing all of the setup for the Sofabaton X2 in the app that's on your phone or your tablet. And there is, of course, when you go into whatever device that you've just added, one of the options is fix or learn commands, right? So I was like, okay, I've got very important buttons that are not working right now, even though I tested them prior to downloading and they worked there. Can I go into that fix and learn commands and figure some way to learn these commands or something? Well, that fix section, which I hadn't ever used on any previous Sofabatons because I'd never really had to. It's kind of interesting because you can go through one button at a time and it'll actually say download alternate IR commands. That's like an option that's in there. And so it's kind of cool because you go to, say, the down arrow button, which wasn't working for whatever reason. You go to the down arrow button, and it's like, here are 6 different IR command options for the down arrow button on this brand of device, and it's literally just trial and error. They're like, yeah, just try 1 through 6, and once you get one that works, say, okay, that's the one to use instead of the default one that currently isn't using. Now, what was really strange is, for every single button on the remote, option number 1 was the one that worked. But I had to manually go through, do the fix command for every single button on the remote, except for the direction up, which was like the only one that was working. And go through every single one of them, do the fix command, use the download alternate IR commands, and then choose option number 1, and I was finally off to the races. So yeah, it was, much like the problem, but I definitely wanted to mention that because I'm like, that is going to happen to somebody else. I didn't know about it. It wasn't like blatantly obvious because it's not the first thing you look at, but it was kind of awesome because I was like, oh, there was a way to fix this. There was a way to get this working, and hooray that option existed, and I'm glad to know about it now, and now I can point everyone else to it.
Yeah, I tried to learn RF remotes on, the RF remote for like this, many people, if you're looking at the YouTube video, you'll see this, the little remote for your fan, which is
sure.
certainly RF. And there was 2 options, and it said, try this one. Did it work?
Mm-hmm.
Like, nope. Try this one. Did it work? Nope. All right. Try to learn commands. Did it work? Nope. I pressed a lot of buttons. I might have killed the battery on that remote.
That part is not a smooth process, the radio frequency stuff, which is new. The Sofabaton X1 did not have radio frequency control. So yes, that is definitely something that Sofabaton is going to have to work on because that is not a smooth and user-friendly process for radio frequency, but it is a brand new thing. I don't think I've seen that on any other prior like consumer level universal remote was doing radio frequency stuff.
No, I don't think so either.
It's
so my friends spent they came over this weekend to crash here while they were doing other things in town. He has a Sofabaton X1S, I think.
Could be.
So he was like, oh, let me see that X2. He's like, oh, it is, because he had read the review and that sort of stuff. And he was like, yeah, it is kind of heavy. And he agreed with me. It feels very substantial, but at the same time, it needs like a finger catch on the bottom of it. Yeah. It really wants to slide out of your hand.
A little bit too uniform and smooth. I can agree. Yeah, a little.
But other than that, I mean, he was like, "Yeah, this is really nice. I'm gonna have to get one of these." I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of funny because, since I've managed to program most of the things that, almost all of the things that I need to use on any sort of a regular basis to the actual hard buttons, which, they do protrude from the front of the thing. You can feel them with your finger. It's not like everything is just touchpad, other than the actual touchscreen at the top for the seldom used buttons. So I've taken to using my Sofabaton X2 like upside down. So because it lights up, right? Anytime you do anything, it lights up. And you can't send any commands without it lighting up. So
that is true. Yes.
Even with the screen and the backlight set to its dimmest level, I'm like, I don't really love having the remote light up every time I change the volume. And you can set it to a minimal amount of time, but then if you do want to use the touchscreen, it's like, well, that turned off way too quickly. So I've taken to holding the thing with the screen and the buttons facing down and just using my index finger to control the button instead of my thumb. That's how I'm using the X2.
Oh, that's
right
weird.
It is
mostly
weird.
Because if you put your hand on that, or if you accidentally press that back button on the screen, it will get you out of the activity, and then none of your buttons work anymore anyway. So that's the biggest complaint I have with it, is I do that constantly on accident, just picking up the remote. It will do that. So
but I will say, amazingly, my parents took right to it. Because, the thing was, I had set them up with an IR only Harmony, Logitech Harmony. It was the 650. So that was one where it had the programmable screen, but the screen itself was not a touch screen. It had little buttons beside the 4 soft buttons that you could program on the screen. So you were still pressing a physical button, but it was IR only. And as we've gone along, Apple TV 4K, their LG TV, this cable box is nothing is defaulting to IR anymore. So they had, in addition to the Harmony, 3 other remotes that they had to still use on a regular basis. I could program the 650 this Apple TV 4K can communicate via IR. It can do that, and I could program the Harmony to do it, but where we've set things up for, they've got a little TV stand with doors on the front of it, and we set up the Apple TV 4K behind those doors, so the IR just was not reliable getting through those doors, whereas the Bluetooth remote that comes with the Apple TV 4K works absolutely flawlessly. So they were using the Apple TV 4K's own remote. Makes sense. It's they can genuinely pick up just the Sofabaton X2, no other remotes. I haven't entirely put those other remotes away yet because I didn't change everything to the point that they can't still go back to the old, way of doing things with the multiple remotes if they need to, but that my parents took to it right away. I haven't had any calls from them of hey, nice. This didn't work. How do I make this work? That's
the biggest endorsement you've heard so far.
It absolutely is. So I was very pleasantly surprised. It was what I was hoping for, but not what I was expecting. And I'm well, there you go. So, a little bit of that is, yes, I put in a lot of time to make the thing as intuitive as I possibly could. And of course, I showed them the, sliding on it like you slide to unlock your phone, you slide to activate an activity. Whereas, of course, on the Harmonies, it was a button push, but it gives you a little bit of force feedback. It does a little vibration when the activity activates, and it gives you some vibration when you press the off button and turn everything off. And yeah, I've had... Yeah, like I say, no support calls have been made, and that's been 2 weeks now, and I've talked to my parents since then, and I visited them since then, and they've taken to it, so there you go. That's a ringing endorsement for the Sofabaton X2, if you put in the time to set it up and figure out that you can download alternative IR commands for buttons that don't actually work.
There you go. So we'll talk a little bit briefly about what we watched, because we have stuff to get into today. Of course, watched a bunch of Olympics. Yeah. I will say... I'll have a couple of complaints about the Olympics, other than the fact that the Peacock app has ridiculously long ads, 120 seconds. It just went on. When you're watching figure skating, after every figure skater, you get 2 minutes of ads. You're just okay. It's almost 1 for 1 with the short program in particular.
Wow.
And staying on that, the real complaint I had is apparently Peacock only kept up the figure skating for 24 hours on their app because of music copyright stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we were not aware of that, and had, my wife was I really want to watch figure skating. I'm okay, let's watch it. She's well, I don't want to start it until I can finish it. So let's just do it tomorrow. And little did we know that we missed almost all of it. We caught very little because of that. So we had to go and find Alyssa Liu's gold medal. She didn't know it at the time, but gold medal winning thing on YouTube. And I'm we kind of want to watch the whole thing.
Yes.
So I don't know when or if that will ever show up someplace, but when it does, we will watch it. We were a little upset by that.
Okay.
And the other thing is, there's entirely too much curling going on at the Olympics. That feels obscene, how much curling was happening. No matter when I turned on the TV, the little live thing said next to curling was happening. I'm It is 1 o'clock in the morning my time. I have no idea what time it is in Milan, but I assure you it is too late for anybody to be sliding rocks across ice. Okay, this is oppressive. And I tried to watch as much of it as I could stomach, but at the same time, I'm I know I need a 4-year break before I can watch some more curling. This is too much curling. It's just too much.
It was a lot of curling. It was a lot of hockey. So the ice rinks were definitely well used there. And the Canadians were involved in all the controversy in the curling. Both the men's team and the women's team.
Finger. Yeah. So we talked a little bit in my family. We like to talk about these things. And so my son and I were kind of discussing it. I'm first of all, there's technically against the rules. And then there's, this person is definitely doing something that's making a difference and should be penalized for it.
Sure.
I just don't know that little tap that he was doing on the rock, whether or not it was actually happening. There was a couple of shots where I was like, he definitely touched that rock. And other times I'm like, that could be an angle. That could just be the angle of the camera on a 2D surface, with a 3D thing happening. It just looks like he's
the rock is round, and it is entirely possible that if your finger from the that's on the far side from where the camera is, extends to where it looks like, well, there's no way that he didn't touch the rock with the extension of his finger, because I see the tip of his finger just kind of disappear, but it's like, that's a very round surface, and it could be just beside.
I mean, it was clear if you watched him, like I watched one of the later games after that confrontation happened with whomever. Was it Sweden or whatever? I don't remember who it was.
I think it was.
And it's clear that his habit is to spin the rock or whatever it is, and then point. He does it every single time.
That's right.
I just don't know. I mean, I agree that if there's a rule about not touching it, or whatever, you should not touch it, and if you do touch it, you should be man enough to say, I touched it. Didn't make a difference. On the part that's the color on top of the rock, there's an electrical sensor there. There's a capacitive sensor. So if you touch that, but if you touch the actual gray, literally made of stone surface, there's no sensor in that stone. Yes, it was a crazy controversy going on at the Olympics. And it is. I mean,
those darn Canadians.
You guys can't be trusted. It's just too nice. I mean, not you. The rest of the. So yes, that was kind of a silly thing. I agree. I am a rules follower. If there's a rule, it should be followed. I am 100% for that. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, people, can we just? Well,
it just brought up all this stuff of like how they don't have video replay in curling, and you have the officials, and there's no recourse if the official makes a decision, and you swear up and down that whatever they saw as a penalty that you didn't do, there's no recourse. You can't take it back. The official says what they say, and you can appeal to the head
there were officials in this sport.
Oh yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's mostly all done. It's supposed to be all, sportsmanship and that. But oh boy, they're like, this might be a reason we might have to institute video replays in curling because of the controversy that was stirred up.
Anyways, we watched quite a few things. We're going to continue to watch for the next 2 weeks while we're waiting for the Special Olympics or the Paralympics or whatever it's called to start up, which we're really excited about. I really like watching that as well. First of all, I don't know if you remember, but I got super into whatever that dodgeball thing was that they were doing with the people who were visually impaired during the Summer Olympics. So I'm super excited to see what sports I don't know exist in the Winter Olympics, which is no
surprise. I watched the sledge hockey, so that's the fun stuff.
I don't know what sledge hockey is.
So you're basically seated in a really close to the ice. Essentially, it's a seated blade, right? Because so this is for people who are.
I think I have seen this.
Paraplegic, and so and then instead of like a full length hockey stick, which obviously wouldn't make sense at that angle, you have one small stick with a ridiculously dangerous spike on the end of each of it, because that's actually how you propel yourself, is by putting the spikes into the ice. And it's like, people get stabbed in that sport. It is not for the faint of heart. And I mean, there are plenty of people who are not paraplegic who play sledge hockey because it's its own sport. It's entirely its own way of doing things. So and it takes a tremendous amount of athleticism to do that sport. It is not something I would be capable of playing.
Some of the other sports that we didn't catch. We didn't watch biathlon, which I'm not super excited about, but maybe I'll get into it. Who knows? I did watch ski mountaineering, which is, I am sorry, that is a dumb sport. I refuse to admit that. I'm not saying it's not athletic or whatever, but
it looks challenging.
I'm not saying it's not hard to do. We actually watched it before the qualifiers, before the Olympics. The entire time my wife and I are like, I'm sorry, are there stairs? Like, what is happening in this sport? Like, what is actually happening?
And you got the little
mountaineering
grippy things on the ends of the skis that you have to then like physically remove in order to go downhill. And the
whole thing is dumb. And I'm like, this is something like a CrossFit person came up with, and I do not stand behind this sport in any way, shape, or form. If you're into ski mountaineering, I want you to know this is said completely from the sense of somebody who in no way would ever put on voluntarily cross country skis. Just not doing it. I grew up downhill skiing, and there's no world in which I try to go uphill on a ski because it is miserable. It is miserable to do that.
It definitely looks like you got to
skills.
have yourself quite the healthy heart to pull that one off, because that does not look like an easy exercise.
So the ones we watched was the sprint event, right? Sure. Which is the go strip. But there is a longer event, which I did not watch yet, though I almost certainly am going to, just so that I can sit there and go, well, this is just as dumb. But maybe it won't be. I don't know. Maybe they'll feel differently about this one. But if there's stairs, it doesn't bode well for you. So we're going to go back and watch some more sports, and we'll figure some stuff out. But right now we needed to take a little bit of a break from sports, so we're like catching up on Saturday Night Live.
It was a good 2 weeks. That was good.
St. Dennis and stuff like that. So yes. What's going on, Rob, with you? What you watch?
Yeah, so I'm continuing on watching the Oscar Best Picture nominees. So this week I did resubscribe to Netflix for the month, and I watched Train Dreams. Train Dreams is written and directed by Clint Bentley, who I looked up, previous ones, and I'm like, I didn't recognize a pretty short resume as far as being a director goes. I didn't really recognize anything before. So interesting, to go in. This is appears to be the first major feature film that Clint Bentley has done, and already a Best Picture nominee. So this is starring Joel Edgerton, very much starring Joel Edgerton. He is certainly the primary character in this movie, and then also co-starring Felicity Jones and William H. Macy and Kerry Condon. Kerry Condon having quite a year, being in 2 Best Picture nominees this year. This one and F1. She was in both of them. So. Yes, like I say, the only thing I knew about going in this movie is that supposedly it's very sad. And
you lost me immediately. Immediately pressed pause and said, "Let's watch something else." Immediately.
And so, I mean, certainly it is. But I mean, I would almost. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, outright. I mean, it's a movie dealing with grief, no question about that. And I wouldn't say that it has a ton of new things to say about grief or dealing with grief. That's not what this movie is about grief, but it's not about some kind of really novel approach or insight to it or something like that. This is all set in just post the Great War, just post World War I. So, sort of 1917, and then there are other time periods that are shown in this movie, but it's really focusing on sort of 1917 through 1922 type of time period. And so Joel Edgerton's character, he is primarily a lumberjack, but then also does work on a railroad, as the title of the movie might suggest to you. And he basically witnesses one particularly traumatic event, and it really, really impacts him. He's sort of seeing visions of this thing and feeling a great deal of guilt about what he witnessed in that. And then there is just a massive force majeure tragedy that takes place. I don't want to spoil anything too much, because the plot of this movie is exceedingly thin. If you're just going to say, here are the events that take place in this movie, right, it's like 3 sentences and you're done. So, this is not a movie about following the plot. It's really about, honestly, it's really about atmosphere. And that is where this movie stands out. The cinematography in this movie is remarkable. And it's shot in a 4:3 aspect ratio. So it's pillar boxed. You got big black bars on the left and right sides of your image. But this movie, I think it's unfortunate that it's exclusive to Netflix and that it barely had a theatrical release. They did the bare minimum so that it was eligible to be nominated for an Oscar. And you really couldn't see this movie in a movie theater. I think this movie needs to be seen in IMAX, honestly, because it is the height. It is the verticality. He's a lumberjack. And so having those forest scenes with these tall 5,000-year-old trees that they're felling and stuff, it is about that verticality. So having that 4:3 aspect ratio makes all the sense in the world. Having these small figures, dwarfed by these massive trees that are around them, and having that sense of height is key to this. And if you're watching on a 55-inch TV from 12 to 14 feet away, you are just not going to get the impact of this movie. You need to be sitting close to the largest screen that you possibly can and to feel yourself dwarfed by the images. And I'm not going to say it's the type of beautiful photography where I'm looking at it and go, oh, look at the color and the contrast. Like, it's all very natural photography. Looks like it was all shot in natural light, actually outside. So it's almost a little bit subdued, like the color and the contrast. The blacks are not like super inky black. They exposed this movie so that you could see what you're looking at, and a lot of the times they're in a forest with what looks like natural light. If you had done that with inky black levels, you wouldn't be able to see anything. So Some of it almost looks like raised black. So it's not impressive photography from that particular point of view, but it's everything about the sense of where we are, what time it is, the historical time that we're in, and then the soundscape. This is not some kind of explosion action movie in any way, but boy, oh boy, like this one, I wanted to have more insulation in my tiny little room. I wanted, 17-inch thick on every surface in my room, because I wanted to completely take away the ambient sense of the room that I was in and be 100% immersed in the soundscape that was created here. I wanted to be in this forest with this character, and that's what they were going for. I'm like, yes, I would have loved to have seen this in an IMAX theater. That's the way this movie should have been seen. You need that type of scope, and you need that type of immersion. And so, I got as close as I could to it with my little theater. And I think my little theater is giving me a lot more of that experience than a lot of people who are going to be watching this, like I say, on a 55-inch TV in their well-lit living room from 14 feet away. You're just not going to get what this movie is about if you see it in a less than idyllic home theater type of setting. Or, like I say, IMAX would be even better. So there's barely any dialogue. And so there is narration, and that narration is necessary. This was adapted from a short story, and even though the performance that Joel Edgerton gives is very good, you would not get some, really quite important stuff that the narrator just has to tell you. This is what he's thinking about. And it's like you can get a little sense of it just by watching his very stoic, very, very stern type of, exceedingly limited facial expression provides. Like, there's a whole bunch you're just not going to get. And it's not that it's in any way a bad performance. It's a very compelling performance, but you need that narration. But it teetered for me on the brink of slightly over narrating at points. I don't think it actually crossed that line, but it was teetering right there sometimes. The narrator having to tell you sort of what was going on. And then, this is set in the time that it's set. So the idea that a man who has gone through tragedy like this is not going to talk about his feelings with anybody, and he's going to just, put his head down and carry on and be absolutely stoic about it. But, it's punctuated by these little moments where he just cannot hide his grief, and he cannot hide his guilt, and it punches through. And, it's at that moment he's like, I don't know what came over me, and that's as far as he gets. It's like, so that's the movie that we're dealing with here. I would just say I can absolutely understand the people that I've seen reviews or heard them talk about it who said like they at points in this movie just bawled their eyes out. They just couldn't help but hold back their own emotion, and so it didn't get me. I don't exactly know why. Maybe it was the mood that I was in. Maybe it was that I was a little bit distracted and thinking about other things. I don't think it was a poor quality experience, because I saw it in my own home theater and it was pretty darn good and immersive. But it didn't quite I wasn't bawling my eyes out, but I did feel a great deal of sympathy for this man. There's a lot of praise that I give to it. I don't know if I would call it the best picture of the year, but it deserved its nomination. And watch it for the cinematography, watch it for the shot composition. There it is. Train Dreams.
All right. Let's get to the podcast here. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You come to our website, find our shows or show notes. Previous episodes, the audios will all be there, or at least links to them. Mm-hmm. You can find our links to articles and products that we will mention here. So if we mention a product as a reference to somebody, or as an answer to somebody's question, you can find the link without having to search it for yourself and make sure that you are getting the right product. We don't have any affiliate links on our site right now, though maybe someday I will get around to doing that. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. if you want to see our recorded shows with the embedded pictures. If you don't want to watch the YouTube version and you still want to see the pictures, the show notes will have the Flickr album, which will have all the pictures in there. So I want to thank our listeners of the. Oh no! If you want to contact Rob directly, Rob is Rob at AVRant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at AVRant.com. Our listeners of the week are people who support us in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and that'll send you to a PayPal donation. So we want to thank Gurinder and Dan for doing that this week. Thank you very much, Gurinder and Dan.
Yeah, I don't know if any of those came in last week when I wasn't privy to PayPal donations, but regardless, we've caught up since last we mentioned it. So Gurinder and Dan, thank you very much for those PayPal donations.
If you want to support us in a different way, and maybe monthly, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast and sign up to become a monthly contributor. We currently have 124 patrons at patreon.com, and we thank every single one of you.
That's right. That is, once again, patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 124 patrons over there.
We got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from a couple of our listeners, including Davide.
It's Davide.
Yeah. All right. He says that now that I'm back, he wanted to make sure I heard his recommendations for the rock climbing game Cairn,
yeah.
Once again, it's available for PC and PS5, which I do not have. I do have a PC, but my PC isn't set up, but it's almost there. We'll talk about that.
I was saying you're going to just confiscate your son's gaming PC so you can have proper gaming experience.
I'm going to say his name wrong again. What is it? Davide is enjoying it very much and thinks I might like it as well.
All right.
We got notes of gratitude from Alan, Karl, Infinite Gary, who always enjoy Lee's and Joe's guest appearances. The sound quality from last week's episode seemed a bit off, though. Did we have a bad internet connection during the recording or something?
So I can just say we recorded it on the Tuesday evening, which normally Tom and I record in the morning, and then I was very busy on Wednesday. So it was a hurried editing process, plus it was like an hour longer than our episodes usually are. 45 minutes longer, not quite an hour. So yeah, that was entirely just it's like, why do the special effects in this movie not look as good as we know special effects can look? Well, they ran out of time, and I ran out of time last week. So it was just get something up there where I think our voices were intelligible enough. So there you go. That's what happened there last week, Gary. That is on me, but I just ran out of time. But at least something got posted on Wednesday.
All right. Micah, David, Gurinder, who says those Olympic hockey gold medals, at least they were exciting, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's because Gurinder and I are both Canadian. Disappointing results, of course.
So the problem with... I mean, there's a couple things that have come out since he made this comment, I'm sure.
Sure.
That maybe he might... have other comments about, but the problem with sports that are one-on-one competition things, which is not the kind of sports I like. Okay. I don't really like that much. But the problem is that you win gold and bronze, and they give you silver, right? Silver is just awarded to the person. You already won silver by going into that last match.
That's the lowest you can possibly get by being in the gold medal game.
Yes, and so. You're both winning and losing at the same time, but you can't help but, somewhat be sad about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I don't love.
Well, I mean, these are the top two teams or the top two competitors, and one of them is going to win, so they get the gold, but they were the top two, so the other one gets the silver. That makes sense.
And this is why I tend to like sports that are more just you against the sport itself, if you will. So figure skating, for example, you are going out there doing the best that you can, and if you have a really good night, in theory you could win. And other people have a bad night. In theory, you could walk away with a medal that nobody expected you to get.
Sure.
Which is, I think, much more exciting to me to watch people strive for their best than it is to have a bunch of people all playing the same sport. You could have the best game, the best game you've ever had, the most whatever assists or shots or whatever, and still lose. Whereas, in another sport, if you were just competing against the sport itself, you might be like, well, I had that. At least I know that I put out there the best I possibly could, and I walked away with a silver, which is amazing, as opposed to, I only got a silver because we lost that last game. And even though we dominated them, or what did somebody say? They dog walked them for 60 minutes, and then they still lost. I don't know. I didn't watch that game. I don't really care that much about
the men's
hockey
game. Yeah, it's not like it was for lack of trying or opportunity. The Canadian team looked like, but you had Connor Hellebuck in there in net, being the goaltender for the American team, and you have the history of the Four Nations tournament that took place last year, and so you had the same goaltenders, the same American goaltender versus the same Canadian goaltender, and in the Four Nations tournament, the Canadian team came out on top, and here in the Olympics, the American team came out on top. But I mean, both the men's and the women's hockey games, they went to overtime, so it's not like this was some kind of trouncing by either side. Took it to overtime. Now, there's all the criticism of in the Olympics, they go straight to the 3-on-3 overtime, which they call it 3-on-3. It's really a 4-on-4 because the goaltenders are still there. But anyway, 3 skaters per side, and so there's all the criticism of, hey, for the gold medal game, can we maybe get a period of just continued 5-on-5 play rather than going down to the 3-on-3, which is almost entirely a possession game, and it's like a completely different sport versus 5-on-5 hockey. So yeah, there's all kind of criticisms for that type of stuff. The Canadian coaching got criticized because they're like, hey, look, if the score had been 9-8, but the Canadians had won, then who cares? Why are you trying to be defensively responsible? Like, you took all these guys who are the absolute top scorers in the league, like, let them go buck wild. Like, just go out there and be as offensively minded as you possibly can and don't even care about back checking. If you get scored on, you get scored on. Go out there and score 2 more yourself. But they're like, nope, we're going to be defensively responsible. You ended up with a 1-1 tie going into overtime. So all kinds of criticisms all around. But it was exciting hockey.
I did watch the women's final. I did not realize. So, I don't really understand hockey all that much. I don't really care. In fact, many of the words you just said were the first time I had heard those words in that order. So when they went into overtime, and I was like, "Oh, they're going to overtime." I really kind of wanted this game to be over.
And somebody's got to win.
Well, I understand that. I wanted them to win, but it was exciting to have the women score in the last 2 minutes of the game, and we're like tied it up, and then they went to overtime, and I was like, oh, we're going to overtime. Know exactly what that means, and then the Americans scored, and I was like, okay, let's see what happens next, and then everybody started taking their pads off. I was like,
yep,
is it over?
Sudden death. It's sudden death in hockey.
I did not realize
overtime.
It was sudden death, right. So I did not quite have the reaction I was supposed to. Lastly, we got another gratitude to keeping the podcast going from Jack, who let us know that he was part of our 2-hour plus listener club. So
that's right.
Let's go through this again. Davide, did I say it right this time?
You sure did.
Okay. Alan, Karl, Gary, Infinite Gary, Micah, David, Gurinder, and Jack. Thank you for thanking us.
That's right. And I'll say the names one more time so they came from my lips. We got Davide, Alan, Karl, Infinite Gary, Micah, David, Gurinder, and Jack. Thank you so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
Okay, so all this stuff is Arkham stuff? Is that what I'm...
I mean, I just put in the links for last week so that you wouldn't be left out.
But is all that stuff Arkham stuff?
We don't have to talk about that. No, 2 of them are. We had Arkham Radia series, the new Radia series. They had receivers and pre-pros and amps and also Radia series speakers. And then, you had Arundel brought out a whole new series of speakers as well, the 1610 series. And we talked about that you can lease a PS5 starting in the UK, but it might be coming to other territories.
So the amplifier and then the speakers are all part of the Arkham thing. Okay.
That's right.
So in the news here. So following on the heels of TCL and Sony announcing that TCL will take over 51% of Sony television and audio businesses, the other remaining Japanese TV brand, Panasonic, has just announced it has also agreed to have a Chinese brand take over its manufacturing, sales, and marketing. So this is Skyworth, the 5th largest, there's 5 of them, global TV brand and 3rd largest OLED brand, has agreed to buy Panasonic's TV business. The transition will take place region by region, and Panasonic says it will continue to provide expertise and quality assurance. Somebody's going to do their job at that point, I guarantee you. But Skyworth will assume all other responsibilities. Skyworth utilizes WOLED panels from LG Display for its own OLED TVs. Same as Panasonic, which just announced the new Z85C series, not to be announced with every other TV brand manufacturer that has a letter, 2 numbers, and then another letter as part of their stuff. So good luck. as well as the tandem OLED prototype using the same panels as the LG G6 that it plans to launch later this year. The Z95B, Z90B from 2025 will carry over and remain in the lineup, and Panasonic has said it will continue to provide warranty and after-sales supports for any TVs it sells this year. Okay. So before we go on with this news thing, I will let you know, I took a shower right before we started this podcast, and I was nice and warm. And now I'm getting very cold in this house because it's like 40 or 50 degrees outside, and I have to go put on more clothes. So I need some socks. God, I'm wearing slippers, but I need some socks, and I need a hoodie or something because I'm starting to shiver.
You're going to be shivering.
I will continue to read the news, but at the earliest convenience, I will be leaving this place to go put on more clothes.
Well above freezing temperatures, but he's just
this is exciting, I guess, or whatever. I mean, people get all bent out of shape about the fact that, oh my God, it's going to be a Chinese brand. So what? There is lots of Chinese stuff that's being manufactured.
I put this here. It's historically significant, right? Yeah. The brands Sony and Panasonic are no longer making their own TVs. Now, this Panasonic Skyworth deal is even more so the case than the Sony and TCL deal, right? The Sony and TCL, 49% still owned by Sony. They're still very much involved in the processing and software side of things. It's just the physical manufacturing is all going to be handled by TCL, which it largely already was. Sony was already purchasing all of their LCD panels from TCL CSOT and that sort of thing. So, that's more of a partnership. The TCL and Sony is closer to a partnership. But this Panasonic Skyworth deal, this is Skyworth is taking over the Panasonic business. That Panasonic saying that they're going to continue using that Panasonic brand name probably has more recognized. It's more of a recognized brand name in North America and most of Europe than Skyworth is, even though Skyworth has been making inroads. They're really wholly taking over Panasonic's television business. Didn't mention anything about the audio side of things, so a little bit different from the Sony TCL deal, where the audio side from Sony is going to TCL as well. So these are different deals, but similar sort of notes going on to them, which is we got these large on the rise Chinese television and electronics manufacturers, and they're taking over the legacy Japanese brands.
Yeah. Microsoft's Xbox division underwent a major leadership shakeup over the weekend. The CEO of Microsoft Gaming since 2014, Phil Spencer, made a surprise announcement on Friday that he was immediately retiring. Whenever somebody immediately retires, something is about to be released.
Yes.
Usually something comes out immediately afterwards.
I'll say, thankfully, this wasn't like some kind of a health-related thing, because that's the other reason that this sometimes happens. So it's not that, which is good. I mean, I'm glad it's not some kind of scary health thing or something like that. But that is a business decision. Yeah.
So it was later reported that the announcement had been planned to go out on Monday, but Microsoft became aware that the news was going to leak, so they hurriedly made the announcement ahead of time on Friday. Even more surprisingly, though, the president of Xbox, Sarah Bond, who was widely expected to succeed Phil Spencer as Microsoft's gaming CEO, instead resigned on the same day.
Yeah.
In their place.
that's a little hinky. You got the longtime CEO being like, I'm taking my retirement, and then the person that everyone was like, oh well, she's taking over. She appeared to be getting prepared to take over as the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. She's like, well, I'm resigning, not retiring, resigning. So yeah.
Well, I don't know what else is going to come out in this, because I haven't read this already, but it feels like somebody there's going to be some shenanigans that will have explained all this. But anyways, in their places, Asha Sharma, who was the president of Microsoft CoreAI since coming over from Meta in 2024, will take over as Microsoft Gaming CEO, despite having no background whatsoever in gaming. That's great. That's what you want. She quickly announced that we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop, says the AI
the
person.
CoreAI president. That's right.
Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us, end quote. Let me tell you
AKA
something.
The most innovative technology provided by us would be AI at this point?
Yes. So, I just did a corporate training last week. I think I talked a little bit about that. And one of the things that this particular training session was about values and setting, and talking about your values. And one of the examples that was given during the training was, somebody who espouses a value, but then immediately does not follow it.
Sure.
And I have the example of when I was in undergrad, I would go into a classroom, and the very first day of class, and teachers often would give a speech about what the class is going to be like and what you should expect.
Sure.
And invariably, if a teacher said, I'm a laid back teacher, I'm very, if you turn in something late, I'll work with you. And if you have any problems, my door is always open and blah, blah, blah. That teacher sucked. And invariably, their door was not open. They did not accept anything late, and they were not understanding in any way, shape, or form. The teacher who said, look around, look to your left, look to your right. One of these people is going to drop this class because my class is very hard, and I am a hard teacher, and I don't grade on curves, and I don't give any breaks, and you're going to have to work for your grade in this class. That teacher was like the best, almost every single time. This is espousing a value. Is not the same as living that value. So
Sure.
If this was a person who actually, and I don't know this, Asha, they may be telling the truth with what they're saying here about, AI soulless, AI slop. But the minute they said it, I would have thought to myself, we are going to be inundated with AI slop.
So
immediately, it's already in my inbox. If I had worked at Microsoft that day,
this is purely my opinion. Okay,
performative. This is a performative thing. Is what they're doing.
Absolutely no objective details about this, but
yes.
When I read the statement that she put out upon being named as the new CEO, I was like, to Rob H, that statement really read like it was written by AI, using something along the lines of, I'm the new CEO of Microsoft Gaming, but I don't know anything about gaming. Can you browse through Reddit and put together a statement that will reassure all the people who are worried that all we're going to do is AI slop? Because it was basically sentences pulled, from what I could tell, straight from Reddit about all the things that gamers are worried is going to happen, and just saying, we're not going to do those things. That's what the statement read like to me. That's my completely just opinion, subjective opinion of the thing. But I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in that statement.
Yeah, me neither. To go on, and the former head of Xbox Game Studios, Matt Booty, unfortunate last name, has been promoted to Chief Content Officer. He will report directly to Sharma, who, in turn, reports directly to Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella. I think I said that Nadell. I'm pretty sure I did. Anyways, Phil Spencer has been with Microsoft since 1988 and was part of the Xbox and gaming divisions ever since their inception. He took over the gaming division as CEO shortly after the disastrous launch of the Xbox One generation. And was tasked with putting Xbox back on track. His first order of business was to remove the Kinect camera as mandatory in order to bring down the price of the Xbox One. He will mostly be remembered for the many game studio acquisitions that have seen Microsoft swallow up a large portion of the entire gaming industry. Not for the better of anybody, as far as I can tell. The largest acquisition, that being Activision Blizzard King. I didn't realize King was part of this.
That's the actual money maker out of Activision. That's the Candy Crush.
I did not realize that. I don't know. It was largely shepherded by Sarah Bond, though, and she also was mostly responsible for this as an Xbox marketing. This is an Xbox marketing strategy, a strategy that I have learned about this very second.
Yeah, so this is an Xbox which was showing any internet connected TV, any Amazon Fire TV stick. They would show some other device that was not a piece of Xbox hardware and marketed this as an Xbox because they're all going to the cloud streaming. And but yeah, she wasn't the one who came up with that. The Xbox Everywhere initiative was started by Phil Spencer, so it's not like that. So some of the reporting that's been coming out after all of this this sure seems like they're throwing Sarah Bond under the bus. Like she's become the scapegoat. They're like, everything that was bad, everything that's been failing about Xbox was Sarah Bond's fault. It's like, well, clearly it wasn't, but she's kind of the one who's being scapegoated and railroaded by all of this. So the fact that she's like, yeah, I'm out of here, and just resigned on the same day as Phil Spencer, not super surprising.
You all can suck it.
But also,
I am shocked that they're going to put everything on a woman as being the problem.
Right.
That doesn't ever happen in corporate America. It's the first time, I think.
But like this
might be the first time.
The thing with Phil Spencer is like he genuinely was a gamer. Like his Xbox gamer tag was on there all the time. People chatted to him on Xbox Game Chat. Like he genuinely was a gamer, legitimately so. But to me, like the whole thing. So first of all, in the recent years, like all these gaming acquisitions, and I'm like, so here's a studio that put out, I don't know, 7 or 8 games before they got acquired by Microsoft. They did so in the span of 6 to 10 years, and then they get acquired by Microsoft, and we haven't seen a game from them since. It's as if they just disappeared off the face of the planet after getting acquired, and like that happened multiple times, and Xbox's share of the gaming market has only been going down. They've only been increasing the prices on everything. The whole move to making everything a subscription service doesn't seem to be going fantastically well. I'm like, that was all Phil Spencer. I'm like, I was kind of surprised he's been here this long. Now the thing was, he was so successful in these mergers and acquisitions. I'm like, okay, so that's the reason that he's been allowed to stay. You keep being able to show on your balance sheet that the number went up because you just acquired this new studio, but then it's as if those studios just died after being acquired. Not entirely so, and they've announced a whole bunch of, but they also announced a whole bunch of games that just never came out or got canceled or got delayed. It just went on and on and on. So I was kind of surprised that Phil Spencer has been around this long. But the new people that they've put in, it's like,
don't worry, they're going to do a much better job.
Well, I think it was IGN that just posted today as we're recording this. They spoke to one of the original founders of the Xbox division, going back to 2001. And so he hasn't been at Microsoft for a long time, and it was pure speculation on his part. But he's like, from what he's seeing, it's it looks like Microsoft is just winding down the gaming division entirely. That just seems to be what he thinks is speculating where all of this is heading. So yeah, I mean, just kind of remarkable. Why are we commenting about an executive shuffle at the top of gaming? What does that have to do with home theater? But I'm like, no, this is significant in the industry because we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, in technology as a whole, right? And it's I think that is significant. And because this was surprising. Wasn't like Phil Spencer has been saying for a while. He's like, yeah, he's looking towards retirement at this point. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars for himself. It's not like he needs to keep working. He's been through an awful lot of stress in the past few years, so it's not surprising that he retired. But it was the way this all went down on a Friday afternoon. Nothing was pre-announced. The person that everybody thought was going to succeed him just says, yeah, I'm resigning. I'm out of here. And then she's getting scapegoated and railroaded the week after. It's like, yeah, none of this seems fantastic on the Xbox side.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what this means in the long term, because we're seeing more and more how consoles, the console wars, if you will. We've seen players come and go, and people try to break into it, and it's kind of come down to Sony and Microsoft, and they're both pulling back. It feels like. So, we have all these gaming TVs or TVs that can have the ability to do, games. And I feel like that's going to be a technology we won't need in the future because people are just going to be like, I don't need a high frame rate on my TV because I don't play on my TV. I play on my phone or I play on my PC. I wonder if consoles, if we are going to see more than one more generation of consoles. Right.
Yeah, I mean, Sony and PlayStation, they were in the news too because, they shut down a big gaming studio that was responsible for a lot of the remakes that they've been doing. And there's been the complaints of how come everything on the PS5 is a remake of an old title? But at the same time, some of them were really successful, but they shut that studio down just recently after having acquired them a couple of years ago. And then they also said hey, because of all these RAM and SSD shortages, they were saying they were kind of eyeing 2027 as when the PS6 might at least get announced, if not launched. And probably not till 2029 now. So it's everything's just going. Nintendo is going to end up being the one that survives all that. Can you imagine if Microsoft has succeeded in their bid to purchase Nintendo back in the Wii U days when Nintendo was at their nadir? It's that. That's just wild.
All right. The board of Warner Brothers Discovery compelled Paramount Skydance to submit their best and final offer in their hostile takeover bid to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount did so, although the exact details of their newest all-cash offer have not yet been disclosed at the time of this recording. In fact, right before this recording, he was like, well, let me go see if I can find it. And he can't find it. So it doesn't exist as of right now. Maybe during this recording it exists.
It very well could be, yes.
But before this recording, it did not. So under the terms of their agreement with Netflix, Netflix has the right to match Paramount's offer prior to their March 20th deadline. So, yes. It's all turning into Blade Runner, where it's just big corporations control everything, and oligarchs and billionaires or trillionaires eventually, I suppose.
It's a little bit wild. Yeah. So Paramount Skydance, they were saying, they'll cover, because Warner Brothers Discovery agreed to sell themselves to Netflix. They agreed to split themselves first, so splitting the movie division from the TV division. They agreed to split themselves first and then sell the movie division to Netflix. And so part of that agreement was if they back out of that deal in favor of taking Paramount's offer, they have to pay Netflix a $2.8 billion cancellation fee, essentially. And so Paramount, part of it, they were like, we'll cover that fee, right? Tell Netflix, no, come get purchased by us instead, and we'll cover that $2.8 billion fee. That was definitely part of this thing. And then they're like, they're going to up their offer. They're going to make it an all-cash offer. Don't worry. Larry Ellison, who does not own Paramount Skydance, his son does, but Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, is for some reason going to sell all his AI stock to purchase Warner Brothers instead. Doesn't make a lick of business sense, but that's what's being promised. And then the Paramount board is like, I think we want to sell to Netflix anyway. And then Netflix was like, look, there's a March 20th deadline for you to either say yes or no. Paramount hasn't even made their best and final offer. They just keep hinting that maybe they'll increase their offer. They're like, you put it to them, make your best and final offer. We'll say we'll match it or we won't, and then it'll all be done by March 20th. So that's the saga.
Very exciting. Comments from our listeners. Alan wanted to get back to us to share his experience with the decision he made after getting our recommendations for closed-back headphones to use in his office cubicle. Once again, he bought the JDS Labs Atom Plus headphone DAC and amp bundle that Rob suggested, and he loves it. No noise floor at all, and he can play the headphones loud, so he's keeping those. He was coming from his pair of first-generation Sennheiser Momentum headphones, and he wanted to find something more comfortable. He also wanted the new pair to sound as good as his open back Sennheiser HD600 headphones with clear treble detail and a bit more bass, though not boomy. Noise canceling might have been a nice bonus, but not as a necessity if the closed back design already blocks enough outside noise on its own. His max budget was $500, or is $500. After collecting our recommendations, he bought a bunch of headphones from Amazon to try out and made use of their easy returns to send back whatever he decided not to keep. Yes, we will talk about Amazon returns in a moment if I remember to talk about monitors that I have purchased recently. Right up front, he never wound up trying either the Audis Maxwell or Maxwell 2 gaming headset, nor the Dan Clark Aeon RT planar magnetic headphones that Saucy suggested. Those weren't available from Amazon. He didn't want to risk any problematic return processes. But who knows? Maybe he would have liked one of those options most of all. But he did try the newest Sennheiser Momentum 4 wireless headphones, the Sennheiser HD620S that Rob initially suggested, the Audio-Technica ATH M50X, the Sony MDR 7506, and both versions of the Barry Dynamics DT770 Pro, the 80 ohm version and the 250 ohm version. So starting with those Bayer Dynamic headphones, he really wanted to like them because of their audiophile looks, unquote, but their solid build quality and their comfort, but he just didn't like their sound. Adding some EQ helped, but they just weren't for him. The Sony 7506s did sound very accurate, but they produced a small soundstage and they pinched his ears at the top of his head a bit. The Sennheiser HD620S weren't different enough from his first-gen Momentums in either comfort or sound for him to want to keep them, so he wound up buying and keeping both the Sennheiser Momentum 4 for when he preferred wireless headphones and the Audio-Technica ATH M50X for when he wants to plug in and really turn them up using his JDS Lab DAC and amp. Both, I'm surprised about that. The M50s I'm surprised about, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'm sorry, ambulance. Thank you for this.
There is both
Okay.
They're coming for you.
Just parked outside. Both provided the sound quality improvements he was hoping for, and a slight improvement in comfort over his current first-gen Momentums. So it was a fun set of trials, and he's happy to have found an affordable combination of products that satisfied his needs. Thanks for the help and the podcast, he says. Yes. So one of the reasons why the ATH-M50s didn't come to my mind is because I don't think they're comfortable. Okay. I like those headphones, and I used them until they literally fell apart, or I gave them away. I don't know what happened. They're gone. But I think they just kind of fell apart on me after like many, many years of use. But I always felt like their clamping pressure was pretty high, and that's why they didn't come to my mind. Now,
also, you weren't actually here for any of the times we were talking about this one, so you didn't even get a chance.
Well, I thought we did. I thought I was here for part of it, because I definitely suggested the Maxwell ones, which I felt are very comfortable. So that's one of the reasons why I'm surprised. Now, I haven't tried the M50Xs, so that is a newer generation for me. So maybe they've changed in their clamping pressure, or maybe you just have a different size head than me,
and also
which works too.
The new generation 4 of the Momentums, he's like, yep, they're more comfortable and they sound better than the first generation. So yeah, certainly there can be changes from generation to generation.
Yeah. So this, unfortunately, is one of the only reasons why I still order from Amazon, and it's because of the return policy. So as we talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago, maybe even more at this point, my wife and I decided we were ready to start setting up our computers. And sure, computer setup, we have an old monitor that somebody gave us, and it's fine, but it's very small, and the colors it's yellow, is the closest to white it gets. And it's just not very good. So she decided she wanted a monitor. So I asked Rob for some recommendations. Specifically, he asked if we wanted an ultra wide, which is what she had before, an ultra wide 21:9 monitor. And I said, yeah, she would like that. So he made some recommendations. I'm like, man, these are all curved. He goes, yeah, ultra wides are all curved. I'm like, fine. So I ordered like a 34-inch Dell Alienware, whatever the heck it was, ultra wide curved monitor. And my family is highly suggestive when it comes to things. Like if I say, I think this might have too much salt, everybody suddenly starts saying how it's too salty. So I don't say stuff like that, especially about, I saw this monitor come in and I was like, man, I'm going to try not to curse. I did not like it. Okay. I took one look at it, went, nope, this is not for me. So I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, these are supposed to be curved like this. You're supposed to set a certain distance for them, so the focal point is right, so that everything looks straight. But it's the whole point is that you're supposed to sit very close, at the right distance. Maybe not really close, the right distance from this monitor, so things look right. The
radius of that curve, yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, oh, okay. And then she sat there, and I could tell she was not loving it. But I didn't say anything. I let her finally come to me and say, I don't really think I like this monitor. I'm like, yeah, I hate it. She goes, well, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, she goes, I was trying to like it because you told me it was good. I'm like, I was trying not to taint your reaction to it to see if you would like it. And the reality is she freaking hated it.
Okay.
Oh my God, did she hate it? Once I finally told her that I hated it, she was like, oh, it's the worst. I love how big it is, but why is it curved? Why can't it just be flat? I'm like, because it's expensive. For whatever reason, all these monitors are curved. So I went and, again, on Rob's recommendation, ordered a 27-inch flat monitor that she's now using. I think she is disappointed by the size. So I might end up with this 27. But when you get bigger than 27 for a flat monitor, if you want a good one, you might as well just order a TV, because it's practically...
You can get a 32, 16 by 9 32 flats. That's the next step. So
yes, but it's like double the price. So we're gonna have to see what she feels about it. But right now she's living with that. I ordered this one directly from Dell because it was cheaper, and I prefer not to order from Amazon. But I ordered the curved monitor from Amazon because I was like, man, I'm gonna end up sending this thing back.
Yes.
And I took it back yesterday, and they took it back no problem.
They sure do.
Yes, I understand ordering from Amazon. This is how you have to do it, especially if you're going to have to do test to know whether or not you like a thing, you have to order from someplace where you can do easy returns. Because you don't know, because you haven't had a chance to test it. And there are no places anymore that you can go to, because all these big companies and online companies have run everybody out of business. And now what? You're going to go to Target or Walmart and test whatever headphones they have there? They're all going to be garbage, and they're not set up to be tested anyways. So we kind of end up in the same situation. So I understand why you did order all of these headphones.
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
The right
with
way
that.
to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Correction from TooMuchMedia. Last week, Dan was asking about how to listen to Apple Music in the maximum 24-bit 192 kilohertz format that is available for certain tracks on the service. Rob correctly said that Dan would need to use a phone, a tablet, or a Mac, as there are no set-top boxes that can output Apple Music at that sampling rate. But Rob incorrectly said that Dan could use a USB-C to HDMI dongle to output the 24-192 signal to Dan's AV receiver. Unfortunately, the HDMI adapters that work with Apple products also limit the signal to 48 kilohertz, the same as the Apple TV 4K. So Apple support says you have to use an external DAC, but as Rob pointed out, Dan's AV receiver is just going to digitize any analog input anyways. So if you want to keep the signal digital all the way from the playback device to the AV receiver, there is a way. It became a bit of an academic exercise, but it sounded as though that's sort of what Dan was going for in this case anyways. In terms of actually listening and hearing any difference, doing all of this probably isn't worth the effort. But the solution is, for those of you that care about this, it is as follows. Get the Apple iPhone camera adapter. Oh my God, this is so stupid. I'm already mad at it. I'm already mad at this for it having to be a thing that exists. Get the Apple iPhone camera adapter dongle. In order for an Apple product to properly recognize the external audio device they're about to recommend, the USB camera adapter dongle is necessary. Put the camera adapter into a FIO, whatever, K3 or KA13 portable DAC. But instead of using the analog output, use the digital coax output instead. Interestingly, I'm not interested in this. Interestingly, the optical digital output is limited to 96 kilohertz. So if you want to hear the full 192 kilohertz sampling rate, you have to use a digital coax output. The AV receiver will need to be in direct or pure direct mode. But if you do all of that, it's possible to hear the 24-bit 192 kilohertz from Apple Music.
Yep. I appreciate the correction.
I got it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Once
worth
again,
it. I
we
said
will
so to Dan.
always own up when we have not said something correctly. Sure. And if you have a correction and you are right, and we will mention you here and give you the credit you deserve, because I'm glad you figured this out. I will never do it. Nor will I ever have any. I've purged it from my memory.
I am
In
not.
The minute you said camera adapter, I was out.
I am not worried about trying to hear a 96 kilohertz sine wave test tone, ultrasonic sound. I'm not worried about trying to reproduce that. But yeah, if you want to go through the academic exercise, there it was.
There it is. Some questions here, and apparently these are left over from last week.
Well,
how
sure
is that
are.
possible with your 3-hour podcast?
We had some exceedingly long ones and too much news. That's how.
John would like to add a couple of pairs of in-ceiling speakers in his living room so that he can expand to a full Atmos setup. He's using a Denon X3800H receiver, and he's already powering his floor-level speakers with a separate Buckeye amplifier. The living room is open concept, and it has 12-foot ceilings. He noticed that Best Buy is selling the Sonance Mag 6 and Mag 8 in-ceiling speakers at sales prices that make them more affordable than a lot of other in-ceiling options, but the larger Mag 8 costs twice as much as the Mag 6. Do they remain a good choice for Atmos Why would they not? Atmos overhead speakers, and would there be a benefit for him to go going with the larger and more expensive Mag 8 model, or can he save the money and go with the smaller Mag 6? I thought we always recommend the Mag 6.
Well, for almost all situations, yeah, because there's typically not much reason. But in this specific instance, I am actually going to say I think there would be a benefit to going with the Mag 8, and it is simply pure output capability and bass extension. Because when you are dealing with a completely open concept and it's a 12-foot ceiling, I'm like, yeah, you actually just legitimately need a little bit higher output capability. And then if you don't want to be forced to use quite a high crossover frequency to your subwoofers, I'm still going to say, yes, set them to small and have a crossover frequency, but having that larger 8-inch woofer allows those speakers to both play louder overall and also more capability to output down to at least 100 hertz, if not 80 hertz crossover frequency to your subwoofers, without all of that sound being completely eaten up just by the volume of air of an open concept room. So I think it's actually worth it in this instance. However, in addition to that, make sure you do get the back cans, the backer boxes. I like that they have the retrofit back cans that are fully available for the Mag 8, and you can buy those in a pair for, I believe it's just over $100. So yeah, that's, adding more to the price there, but it's well worth it. Buy once, cry once, and I say to go for that. All right, moving on to Greg. Greg has enjoyed the humor of us poking fun at replacing speaker binding post jumpers and then saying, why do all that if you're not going to replace all the internal wiring as well? Which was a joke on my part, but yeah, it has about as much use as worrying about the jumpers. Anyway, he is a quote-unquote concerned Ascend Acoustic Sierra 2 EX V2 and ELX speaker owner, and he's asking to what degree is there any validity to the online claims that you can further improve their performance and their measurements by upgrading and replacing several of their internal components. The cabinets and the drivers would remain exactly the same, but the crossover and the internal wiring would change, and naturally these improvements, quote-unquote, cost several $100s, so the claim is always that Ascend could have included these better parts, but they would have had to increase the retail price, so that's why Aftermarket can offer these improvements and truly maximize the speaker's performance. They're claiming Ascend left all this performance headroom that's on the table, all just because they wanted to hit a lower price point. So yes, he's asking, is that all really just a scam? Because Ascend has provided clipple measurements of their Sierra 2 EX version 2 and their ELX speakers, and there are long discussions on Ascend's own forums about how they designed it and how they chose the specific parts that they went with, and particularly with the ELX, the flagship series, it sure seems like if it had been feasible to further improve the speakers, Ascend would have just gone ahead and done so, even if they had to charge a higher price to do it. So what is the real deal with the Aftermarket? Replace the crossover, replace the wiring, redesign these speakers, but keep the cabinets and the drivers. What do you think, Tom?
I was trying to read the question because I missed part of it, unfortunately.
You sure did.
So throughout history, there have been people whose whole job it is, or they make their job to modify speakers or electronics. I remember going to a high-end show in Jacksonville, I think, where they had, like, almost every place had a DVD player or a Blu-ray player that had like a tube, like one tube sticking out of the back of it that had been modded into the thing. So one, whatever, I don't know why that tube was there, but it lit up and everybody was very excited about it. So, there's always going to be a market for modders, and they're going to make claims, and those claims are going to be maybe complete lies and fabrications, or maybe they are objectively, measurably making a difference in what the product is doing or is not doing. I remember when many years ago, there were some like $30 speakers that Best Buy was selling that like somebody on Reddit, or I think it was just pre-Reddit, somebody on some forum went crazy for and wrote some long write-up, and then people started buying it and stuff like that, and then people started modding it. I opened it up, I didn't have very much installation in there, so I started adding this, and then if you're gonna add some cotton batting in there, why don't we add something heavier, some fiberglass insulation, or why don't we add some mass loaded vinyl that to go along the inside of it, whatever. I mean, they were doing crazy stuff to these things, and people are like, the difference is night and day. It's whatever. I was walking down the aisle at Sam's last night, and it was I ended up on this aisle that was one side was like drugs, like painkillers, like aspirin and Tylenol and Advil and multivitamins and stuff. And the other side was lies. It was just, it was just drugs that are not FDA approved in any way, or the most. And my favorite one was like the most researched, drug in history. I'm like, did they ever find anything? Because why would you have to keep researching? I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't research stuff, but the fact that you are researched is not a claim that you should be making. And it was just supplements. And I was thinking to myself, like, how can they have all these supplements? How can they have all these supplements and make money? I'm like, well, all they have to do is get one person to take their pill that may or may not have the ingredients, because many times these supplements don't even have the active ingredient they claim to have in them. Like when you do objective testing of them, and later they'll find that there's actually none of the thing that you said that there was supposed to be in there. It's a
sugar pill.
It's and that all you need is one person to have a good day afterwards, and then suddenly they're going to be an advocate for you, and they're going to not just buy it, but they're going to tell everybody else. Yes. So how do these modders take and make these changes to things and then continue to make money or make money? It's because all they need is one person, or a couple of people to have a good experience with it in order for them to make money, and then have that sort of advocate for them. The placebo effect is very real. People want to believe, and I mean, I don't personally care if it makes you happy to get or makes you, let's not say happy, makes you feel special to have a speaker or a piece of electronic equipment that other people look at and go, I don't know what that is. I don't know why that is the way it is. I don't know where that tube came from. I have the same thing and there was no tube in mine. Why is there a tube in yours? And then you can explain it and feel superior. If that makes you happy, I think you should go ahead and do it. But for me, it's more important that I'm spending my money to get something, and I don't just give it to somebody who promises that they're going to do something. I need to know that there's something there.
We can't dismiss all modifications, because there are legitimate cases where, you can open up some speakers, and price has nothing to do with it. Sometimes you can open up an expensive speaker, and you're like, this is it functions right now. You can measure it. Everything's totally fine right now. But this is legitimately a part that we know from a long and cataloged history. This part is going to fail in 5 years. Like that's, it's this well-known, resistor or something like that, with has a high failure rate, and you can sometimes spot that, and like I say, it has nothing to do with price. You can find sometimes in a very high thing. And so people are like, well, you can replace that resistor or that capacitor or whatever, and it's like, you're not actually going to change the sound. The people are being honest. You haven't changed the value of it, so you're not going to change the sound, but there's strong evidence that your speaker literally will last longer. Like this component will not burn out in 5 years. Like we can reasonably expect that this one that they put in there will. So sometimes there are very legitimate things like that. There's also the case of when Philharmonic Audio bought a whole big supply of the first generation of the Pioneer Andrew Jones bookshelf speakers and then replaced everything. And it's like, but Dennis Murphy was very open about it. He's like, I literally can't source cabinets that are this good, for the price he was trying to hit. Like, I can't source these cabinets anywhere at the same price as just buying a bunch of these Pioneer speakers. He's like, this is the cheapest way for me to get cabinets of this quality at this price point, is to buy ready-made speakers and then replace everything in them. So it's like, there are cases like that, but I would largely say they're the outliers. When it came to improving these Ascend speakers, it's like, so you got the example of back before Dave owned a Klippel measurement system.
Right.
You had Amir over at Audio Science Review who measured the Luna, when the first generation of those, and showed this very scary looking graph of this port resonance. And Dave was like, well, I can't even measure that same thing that's being shown in these Klippel measurements with the measurement equipment he had at the time. But he's like, let me go ahead and buy a Klippel and see if I can he went to that extent. He bought a Klippel. He's been using it ever since. So that has been worth the purchase. But he's like, you know what? I can recreate that measurement. It's like, it's a one notch frequency that wasn't showing up in any smooth results, but he's like, I can recreate that. And he's like, I'm going to fix it. And he did, with a little piece of foam that you could add to those speakers on the little slot port. And he's like, there you go. I fixed that one problematic frequency. And that was a mod. That was a mod directly from the manufacturers. But like, someone pointed out a problem. I was able to recreate it and I was able to fix it. And it was a 20-cent piece of foam, but there it is. I fixed the problem. So, when they're pointing out like the components that are used inside as being not the most expensive inductors and capacitors that you can possibly buy to put inside of a speaker, it's like, but they're still really high quality, long lasting, and the correct, thing. So it's like the fact that even more expensive components exist in the world is like, no, that isn't going to make a difference in this case. And then, yeah, the notion of, well, you can certainly change things, right? You change the values of the electronic components in the crossover, and you can make a different set of compromises, right? I saw one of the videos modding the speakers, and they're like, the person who was doing the mods was saying, I don't like literally saying, I don't like that when I measure the impedance of these speakers, that the impedance goes up significantly in the treble. I would rather have an impedance that remains the same impedance or close to it across all of the frequencies. Now, that isn't really anything you'd find in any of the design cookbooks and things. It's like, you expect the impedance in the treble to go up, and you don't need to deliver as much current into a tweeter as you do into a bass woofer, so it doesn't really make much sense to worry about keeping the impedance of your tweeter low, and that can even be a problem when you connect it to some Class D amplifiers. But hey, you want to make that compromise to make your graph look the way you want it to look, right. You can make that difference, but it also means that the bass extension was worse after making that modification, and the power handling and the sensitivity was worse, but you made your graph look the way you wanted it to look, so okay, you can make that design compromise, go right ahead. So that's largely what's going on. But the last thing I want to say on this, because we got to move on, is that when it comes to building a lot of speakers, right, not just modifying one pair, building a lot of them, like, there's more to it than just saying, well, there actually is a component that exists in the world that even I, the manufacturer, might say, if I could, I might use that component. There's some small performance advantage. But you have to look at some of the logistics of, can I get enough of those parts? Can I get them in a timely fashion? Can I get them reliably? Can I get enough stock of them that I could deal with any warranty repairs that come up for the next 7 years like I'm required to by law? Can I get it at the price point that I need? Is the timing going to work out? Well, maybe there's this other component that's way more readily available that is almost as good, and for business reasons, I'm going to choose that. And it's like, it's really not fair to say you should have moved heaven and earth and built your own manufacturing facility so that you could get the very best component, when logistically it just doesn't make any sense from a business point of view. So it's like, yeah, that's going to happen when you're building hundreds or thousands of pairs of speakers as opposed to modifying one pair.
Let's also, for a perfect example of this, let's look at cross-spectrum labs really quickly. Could a manufacturer, the manufacturer of the UMIC 1, could they provide an individualized, for each microphone, correction file?
Well, they do, actually, which is crazy, but they do. But could it be as granular? Yes, as
could it be the same thing that Cross Spectrum Labs provides? The answer is they could. They absolutely could.
It is possible.
It would increase the manufacturing time, which would increase the cost, which would increase wait times and maybe opportunity costs for them. It would increase a lot of stuff alone. And at some point they went, we've got. We can do a file that is pretty good and is good enough.
Pretty darn good.
And it is a cost-benefit analysis sort of thing.
Yes.
Whereas, for those that want to have that very granular file, they're willing to spend an extra $20, $30, whatever it is that Cross Spectrum used to charge for that. Right now, they're not doing this service because of reasons, tariffs and stuff. So you are... those people are willing to wait and pay the little bit of extra money to get but for everybody else, it's fine. So, yes, you can have a modification done to a speaker or to an electronic that will make a difference. But for the most part, I think it's a lot of this stuff that you see is, like Rob said, it's people applying their own preferences upon the speaker. And if you like it too, great. But I think for a lot of it, like we can talk about that last Apple, getting the highest bit out of it, rate, the sampling rate. You just, at the end, you're like, well, I did a bunch of stuff to it. I spent a bunch of money, and now psychologically, I think it sounds better. But in reality, it sounds exactly the same. John in Ireland. Based on our recommendations, John has upgraded a bunch of things in his living room setup. The room itself is 15 by 20, and it can actually be closed off from the rest of the house, which is unusual. It is. So it's his own separate room. He bought. It's 15 by 20. 85-inch TCL TV, a Panasonic UB450 Ultra HD Blu-ray player. ELAC Debut 2.0 front speakers, SVS PB1000 Pro sub, Sofabaton U2 Universal Remote, not the X2. He's very happy with all of those. He previously asked about potentially upgrading his surround speakers since he can notice a bit of a mismatch between his new ELAC Debut 2.0 front and his old surround speakers that he hasn't replaced yet. We said to just pair the ELAC Debut 2.0 speakers would be perfect. A pair of those would be perfect. But unfortunately, those seem to be extremely difficult to find now. He must have waited just a bit too long. So are the new ELAC Debut 3.0 bookshelf speakers the best choice? What about maybe ELAC Unify 2.0 or something else? I don't know anything about the 3.0, but if they're anything like the Debut, because the ELACs have all been kind of generally pretty flat and even sounding. If those follow the same trend, I see no reason why that would not be the case.
Yeah, so the difference is everything up through the 2.0 series of the ELACs, those were when Andrew Jones was still working there, but he moved on. He's at MoFi now. And so the 3.0 series was a different speaker designer. Now, according to the independent measurements, they're actually a little bit more neutral in terms of where the -3 dB points are, because the ELAC Debut 1.0 and the 2.0, they had a little bit of a high frequency roll off that was intentional. It was because of they were hitting a price point there, and he's like, well, I can get our tweeter and our crossover to do these things, but it's at the very top end, it's going to roll off a little bit. And honestly, there's a fair amount of benefit that can come from that, because we're not super worried about above 10 kilohertz, and it can actually help you make the positioning and imaging a little bit easier when there's a little bit of a high frequency roll-up. But the 3.0 has very extended linear response, but they also cost more, right? They had to go to a more expensive tweeter.
Those are like $300, $400 a pair.
They're not super cheap. But by the measurements and by the folks who have compared them, if you're comparing them head-to-head AP comparison, you can actually hear a little bit of that extension. You could hear a little bit of a high-frequency roll-off if you're critically listening in the Debut 2.0 series. And then the 3.0, they're you can hear a little bit of that extension that's going up there. So it's not like they're a literal perfect timbre match. A little bit of EQ could make the 3.0 sound exactly like the 2.0. So it's easy, but I'm almost I don't know, do I want to spend that much because they're not discounted yet, that type of thing. The Unify 2.0, they were always more expensive and a little bit, more upscale components that went into those, but those do sound very similar. And if the 2.0s are actually cheaper than the 3.0 of the Unify 2.0 versus the Debut 3.0,
Debut 3.
I would have no problem using a pair of Unify 2.0. When they were new, they cost more, so it wouldn't have made sense. But now that they're older and you can find
there's so many
cheaper.
Flat speakers out there. I gotta believe that there's other options.
Well, I was thinking for the ELAC Debut 2.0, if you're going for surrounds that are more similar to the 2.0 fronts that you have, and the old speakers he had were wildly different, so I'm not surprised that they sound different. I would definitely I'm not saying buy these sight unheard and just trust me, bro. I'm try them out, but I think Polk would be a good one for you to try. Honestly, even just the monitor series.
To know, he's in Ireland, right?
Yes,
that what he said? Ireland.
Yeah. But I mean, Polk is available worldwide.
Sure.
And they're never crazy expensive. So yeah, I would point you to, if you can't find the ELACs at a price that makes sense for you, because yes, it's perfectly fine to use any of those ELAC speakers with your Debut 2.0 fronts. But yeah, have a look at Polk, and I would say the monitor series is perfectly fine to consider, because these are going to be surrounds. You want to keep the price reasonable, and they have that sort of similar little bit of high frequency roll off, but that's a benefit in this case.
I wonder if NHTs are available there, because NHTs are for surrounds.
They've been out of stock forever, so.
Or have they?
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm just looking them up. Anyways, there's a lot of flat speakers out there. I got to believe you can find something that's going to be a little bit cheaper than this. But, you know, if this is what's available, then you're fine with
I'm just thinking it should be very possible for you to at least go ears on with a pair of Polk speakers somewhere.
So after he told us that his living room can actually be an enclosed space, we said that getting a second subwoofer could generally be worth it after all. Naturally, he was considering getting a second PB1000 Pro. What about maybe getting a bigger model? The original PB3000 doesn't seem to be available anymore. The new PB3000 or Evolution is too expensive for his budget. But what about the PB2000 Pro, and pair that with his existing PB1000 Pro? One sub would go up in the front, and the other would go at the rear right of his seats, and the rear sub would be physically closer. So a PB2000 Pro up front, maybe a PB1000 Pro in the back. Some YouTube reviewers have said the PB2000 Pro is noticeably better than of course they say that, than the 1000 Pro. And
I mean, it can objectively play louder. That is a fact. Yeah. It can objectively play louder at the very top.
Even though he already loves the performance of his current PB1000 Pro. So my friend who was here was like asking me about whether or not he should get bigger subs. In his room. In his room at home, his subs are genuinely a little bit too small because when he bought them, they were in a different room.
That can happen.
And now he's in a slightly larger room, and they're struggling a little bit. And should he get bigger ones? And I'm like, I mean, technically, yes, you could and probably should get bigger ones. His wife was unimpressed with my opinion on this subject. But if your room was already the right size, if the PB1000 Pro was already the right size for your room,
and in an enclosed room, a PB1000 can handle a sizable room. It's when you're trying to use it in a wide open concept great room, it's like, well, you could probably use a more capable sub, but it's like this room can be enclosed and like it can handle a sizable room if it's enclosed.
So I mean, it's already. If you said I want to get. I would like to get another sub, but I would like it to be smaller. And you said, should I get the SB2000 Pro? I would say yes.
Okay. Although, in that case, like the PB1000 Pro is substantially more capable than the SB2000 Pro.
That's true, but at least you would be like in the range of where you wanted to go.
It would be for a reason.
Yes. Going up from the PB1000 to PB2000 just because you're afraid you're going to be missing something. What you will be missing is not turning the volume up as much on your PB2000 Pro.
Yeah. The other thing
what I suggested you is buy the 1000.
Yes.
And then put tape around where the numbers are. And then just make the numbers be different so that you feel like, oh, I'm only turning this up to a 3 now because it's so powerful. Because that's essentially what you will be missing with the 2000.
Yeah, no, the other part of this, which makes complete intuitive sense, and I totally know where it comes from, because with a regular speaker, if you sit closer to it, it sounds louder. And that makes all the sense in the world. But that doesn't really happen with subwoofers, because the sound you're hearing from the subwoofer is essentially not the direct sound that made a straight line from the driver of the subwoofer to your ears at all. You're pretty much only hearing sound that reflected off of the boundaries of your room.
The highest notes that your subwoofer will be playing still have a wavelength of like 20 feet or something like that. It's still bouncing off of something in your room before it got to you. So the proximity to the subwoofer makes very little difference.
That's right. But I mean, I get where the obvious intuitive sense of if I'm sitting to the closer one, can't I have that turn down louder and have the one that's at my front of the room physically farther away from me? Like, couldn't I use a bigger sub over there? With bass, it's very different. You're dealing with, there are two things that are generating sound waves, but they are then working in this enclosed space. The lengths of the sound waves they're generating are longer than the dimensions of the room that they're in. So it's all one bass thing. There are multiple, generating sources, but they're all working together, including the boundaries of the room are part of it. It's like you're inside of the speaker. And therefore it's like, well, if this one driver producing really long wavelengths is physically closer to me, it doesn't actually make a difference there. So it would be a waste for you to get the bigger subwoofer in here. You'd be paying more and getting nothing because it would just have to necessarily be limited to the same output as the smaller subwoofer that you have. You're not gaining a benefit by having one of them be bigger than the other. So yeah, either if you're just worried about it, your choices are, the most sensible thing is get a second PB1000 Pro. That's absolutely what you should do. But the only other thing you could do if you're just totally worried about it and it's never going to give you a moment's peace is to sell the PB1000 you already have and get 2 PB2000 Pros. Those are the only 2 options.
And then turn them both down in relation to your your PB1000s. So he says, what about maybe getting an SB2000 Pro or SB3000? They cost less than the ported versions, and you could get the higher end series at closer to the PB1000 Pro price. I went with a pair of SB2000 Pro subs, right? So are the SBs better than the PBs? They are, in that they are smaller, and that's what I wanted.
Yes.
I do not have space in my room for one, much less 2 PBs. So the ported boxes are too big. I didn't really need the output of the
Yes, Tom's new room is small.
It's very small. It's tall, but it's small.
Yeah.
So it's almost a cube. I mean, it's pretty close to a cube. So it's like 10-foot ceilings, and I think it's 10 by 11 or 11 by 12 or something like that. It's almost a cube. But what I did not have was floor space. I got a big old TV in there, and I've got 2 speakers that I got to put on stands someplace, and I've got 2 little corners, and I got to be able to open doors and stuff like that. So I'm going to be struggling to get these speakers to be in here, and the subwoofers, and to fit everywhere. So I wanted to go with a sealed box because I needed this floor. I needed floor space. So the SB1000 isn't really enough to fully pressurize my space,
or get right itself. Down to 20 hertz.
All the way down to 20 hertz. Yeah. Yes. So the SB2000 was what I went with because that's the one that made the most sense for the output I needed to have, the extension I needed to have, and the footprint I needed to have. They are not better sounding than the SBs or the PBs. There is no tonal difference between one and the other as far as the timbres and stuff like that. This is just bass. It just sounds like bass. There is, if it's accurate, it's accurate. If it's not accurate, then it will sound bad. And if the subwoofer is bottoming out, or if it's distorting because it can't play loud enough and loud enough for your room, then it will sound bad. But once it sounds good, there is no better.
Yeah,
it's just.
The PB1000 Pro can play lower and louder than the SB2000 Pro or even the SB3000. I haven't seen the measurements yet, the CEA 2020 measurements on the SB3000 Revolution, but that costs more than you were looking to spend. So yeah, value-wise, since your room is bigger, enclosed is great, but your room is bigger than Tom's room, you can benefit from the output and extension of the PB1000 Pro, but you don't need to go more than that or pay more than that. Get yourself a second PB1000 Pro, John.
And be honest with you, if I hadn't gotten the SB2000s, I would have gotten the RELs.
RSLs, yeah.
RSLs. The RSL subs.
The Speedwoofer 10S Mark II, not the Speedwoofer 12. That would physically be too large and have much too pointy corners.
Yeah. Nick has a basement home theater. Half of the ceiling in the front is a drop tile ceiling, and the other half of the ceiling at the back is drywall. Okay, so he's got a 11.2.4 speaker set up, and when he finds some free time, he'd like to finally get all of his wires hidden above the ceiling and behind the walls. He'll have speaker wires, subwoofer cables, and a 12-volt trigger wires to deal with. So, can we recommend some good, not too expensive, in-wall rated speaker wire? Each run will need to be up to 50 feet long, although probably more like 30 feet in most cases. You're going to buy a spool of
sure are.
200 feet, probably.
Oh, Lord. He's got 15 speakers to deal with here, so I'm thinking a 500-foot spool.
That's a lot of speaker wire that you're going to need. And you'll look for plenum, or I guess you don't technically need plenum,
You don't need plenum. Plenum, if you're not familiar, it means it's going inside of your air ducts. So it has to be a very certain rating.
The only reason why I say plenum is because whenever you're looking for wall or whatever, sometimes you end up with it whether you like it or not. It kind of ends up being that way. And if it says plenum, then you don't have to worry about anything else.
That's right. Yeah.
It means that it's rated for everything that you would care about. So the plenum is an easy shorthand. It can sometimes be a little, and when you're buying as much as you're buying, a little bit of a difference in price can make a big difference at the checkout. So
but CL2 or CL3 or CM rated is what you need for the in wall. Now I'm going to say in terms of getting this at a fairly reasonable price, there's no reason you need to go thicker than 14 gauge speaker wire. So I'm going to point you to Parts Express, Belden. Now you'll see that a bunch of these are also rated to be direct burial or plenum. It doesn't, like we say, all of those are over and above what you need. But I'm thinking about 500 feet is what you need. So you can basically get that for $1 a foot or less, depending on the color of the outer jacket. If you're worried about, the bit that might be exposed beyond the wall being black or white or gray, there are some differences in the price of the outer jacket, but $1 per foot or less. And you can get some very lovely 14 gauge Belden in wall rated speaker wire. And get that at Parts Express.
Yeah. I will include a link to an article I wrote on AV Gadgets that talk about the different in-wall ratings so that you can understand those. It's just for your own edification. So he's got one section where he's thinking he'd like to use that flat speaker wire that can adhere to the drywall and then mud and paint right over it. What's the best brand for that? I can already tell you I've been doing research on it, and Rob too. It's the Soul.
Yeah, Soul.
Yep. And it ain't cheap, son. And you need to make sure that
it's crazy expensive though.
It's not crazy, but you also need
$2 a foot.
You need the so it's the wire itself has to be terminated into their little boxes.
Yes, that's right.
That you have to order,
and you can get it as a kit from them.
Yes, you can get it as a kit, but sometimes you'll have to order it separately depending on how things go. So yes.
But yeah, it's about $2 a foot, and they call it ghost wire. And you might have been asking because at one point Monoprice had a very similar product for slightly less. It was about $1.50 a foot from them, but they're not. Monoprice isn't selling that anymore. So Sewell Ghost Wire is the go-to for sure.
So the subwoofer cables he's using right now are Blue Jeans cable LC1. Can those run behind drywall, or does he need to replace them?
They are CM rated. They're perfectly fine to go behind the wall. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm pretty sure my article will address that, but I have read it a long time ago. So does he need to replace his 12-volt trigger wires to run them behind the drywall? He's using Seaton 3.5 mini 12-volt trigger cables right now.
So I couldn't find if those
low voltage.
Yeah, it is low voltage, which means that it probably should be fine. But the whole thing about fire safety ratings is not really about the power going through these wires. It's about if the outer jacket catches on fire, is it going to either spread that fire very rapidly, through what would be fire blocks, because these are things going through your studs or whatever like that, or are they going to release off gases that could potentially be toxic? That's really the worry with the fire rating stuff, is the outer jackets catching a flame, not them causing the fire themselves. So the truth is, I don't know for sure, which means that I would want to err on the side of caution, which, if you're looking for 3.5 millimeter wires, particularly a mono one that is definitely fire rated, boy, is that hard to find. Snap AV actually has that, but you as just a consumer can't order it. You'd have to buy it through a dealer. So that's one option if you're dead set on it. But the other one is, it's very easy to use a little adapter that converts a 3.5 millimeter mono to an RCA plug. And then you could use any RCA cable that is in wall rated, of which there are many, including the ones from Blue Jeans Cable, if you want to stick with that. So I think that's the better solution. It's easier to find wall plates that are RCA plugs instead of 3.5 millimeter. 3.5 millimeter wall plates do exist, but it's easier to find RCAs. And then it's easy to find in wall rated RCA cables. So I think that's the way I would do it. I just have a little adapter that turns the 3.5 millimeter plug to an RCA plug and do it that way.
So he asked, where can he get faceplates for subwoofer, speaker, and 12-volt trigger cables so that he can have a clean-looking installation? So I haven't ordered these in a long time, but there are quite a few options. I would look at Parts Express or Amazon.
Yep.
Some of them are built in. They're already you choose the plate, and the plate has a bunch of speaker connections and an RCA and an HDMI and a bunch of other stuff. And then you do that, or some of them are module where they'll just have these little squares, and you buy the modules that you want and you plug them all in there, and you can label them yourself. So if you find, usually the ones that are already built in together are a little bit cheaper than the modular ones. So if you find one, you're like, oh, that's everything exactly what I need, and maybe a couple extra things that I won't use. That's kind of the way to go, because you'll save a little bit of money. But either way, that's how you do it.
Blue Jeans has the little Keystone Jack ones, the modular ones, but they've been out of stock on a lot of those for some time. So that might be why he's asking. Parts Express, definitely I would look there. Monoprice, you can look there as well. Amazon has the brand Right AV. They're the ones that's easiest to actually find that 3.5 millimeter. But like I said, I wouldn't even use that. I would convert it to RCA. But the one you might not have thought of is Outdoor Speaker Depot. They have a good selection of wall plates, all the types you might need at really good prices. So I'd certainly check Parts Express, and then I would check Outdoor Speaker Depot second.
Okay. So potentially coming at this from a different direction, he did a free consultation with Gick Acoustics. They recommended that he use their soffit traps in his vertical corners and several 6-inch thick and 8-inch thick panels throughout the room. He was thinking that if he had floor-to-ceiling bass traps in his vertical corners, he could run at least some of the wires outside of the walls and then hide them behind those bass traps to route them up to the drop tile ceiling. Does that seem like a reasonable idea? Would he need some sort of conduit behind the corner bass traps in order to have enough room to run the cables and the wires? There's no world in which I put conduit. I would just run them right up the wall.
The soffit traps can be, they offer a keyhole mount solution, which, as long as you have just a little bit of gap behind there, like we're talking, I'm recommending you 14 gauge speaker wire. It doesn't need to be some kind of gigantic channel that goes back there. But the soffit traps can also be freestanding. You can just stack them in the vertical corners and have them freestanding, in which case there's going to be a little bit of a gap, because like your baseboard at the bottom is not going to be like right flush against the wall. So the bottom, standing bass trap is going to be against the baseboard. So there's already going to be that little bit of a gap behind it, which is absolutely enough for 14 gauge speaker wire. So I like this idea because whenever I don't have to deal with opening holes in my walls, I'd rather not. And then you know what, if you're traveling along the baseboards close to them, little curtain skirt. We haven't mentioned a curtain skirt in a long time, but if you just want to visually hide it, a little curtain skirt along the bottom can hide all the wires inside your room and do a fantastic job for not very much money. So we don't have to do all of Infinite Gary's this week. We've got to get at least a couple of more. Infinite Gary's we'll keep. Let's skip down past that.
All right, good. Micah and his wife purchased a new home 18 months ago. Right away, they started a full renovation, and it's just now nearing completion. He's dreamed for 15 years about having a dedicated media room where he'll be able to watch Christopher Nolan movies the way they're meant to be heard, without his wife yelling, "Micah, turn it down." She doesn't sound like that.
I don't think so.
I sound like that, and yes. I'm sorry, Micah's wife. You don't sound like that. But that's how he heard you. I'm sorry, Dave. Inform you. And now he's finally going to achieve that dream. He's going to have a 9.2 speaker setup with Martin Logan speakers all around and a Marantz receiver. His wife is not even allowed in the room because it only sounds good to him. Everybody else had it. Suck it. The room is coming together, and he found a set of 4 recliners that he really liked at Pottery Barn. This is where he hit a big snag. He wound up having to cancel his order for those chairs because the delivery company informed him that the chairs require a minimum door width of 36 inches to fit through, and that the standard interior doorways of 32 inches would be a major problem. Worse than that, the doorway into his new media room is narrower at only 28.5 inches. So I almost made a bad joke, and I'm glad I didn't. Anyways, he was fine shelling out $7,000 for the 4 seats, but trying to figure out how he might be able to physically get them into his room turned into a nightmare. On Rob's advice via email, he triple-checked with Pottery Barn, and they insisted that the seat backs on those particular chairs are not removable. And while there are 4 individual seats, and only one of them has 2 arms, each individual seat comes fully assembled and cannot be taken apart once it leaves the factory. So he left that order canceled, and now he's coming to us for some suggestions. Where should he look to find some similar looking recliners? at least 4 of them, for under $7,000. A friend of his suggested Salamander Designs, of course, because that's like the first Google thing that comes up. And they do have some nice looking options, but the prices appear to be quite a bit higher. Yeah. So can we provide some other suggestions to him?
Yeah, the Salamanders are often in the at least $2,500 to $3,000 or more per seat. So getting 4 of them for $7,000, I would venture, is going to be a challenge.
Okay, so Rob's going to make suggestions that are home theater specific, and I don't disagree with either of the 2 suggestions that I see that he's making here. I will say that what you want to do is you want to go to your whatever local stores you have, furniture stores, and sit on couches and stuff. What you're going to have to do is you are looking for a not modular, what do they call them? Sectional sofas or sectional, couches that are that you can kind of design yourself. Okay, and they're going to have them all set up, and what you'll see, because I just did this. What you'll see is they'll have a couch set up that's maybe in a 2 or 3 seat configuration, or maybe like an L-shaped configuration, and ignore it. Just go sit on it and say, "Oh, I think this is comfortable," or sit on it and say, "This sucks." Either way, I swear, if I hit this mic one more freaking time, I'm gonna lose my mind. Next to it will be a piece of paper or a little like plastic display thing, which will have a piece of paper in it, which will show all the different options you have for this couch and all the different pieces. And I assure you that most of these sectionals, they come in the seat itself and the back itself come separate, and they assemble everything in your room. And most of the time, you'll have no problems getting things into your space. So the sectional will solve almost all of these problems for you because of the fact that they do come in pieces. Now, that's not always the case. You will have to ask. My couch that came in, and I have very tall doors, but they are quite narrow. I don't think they're as narrow as what you're talking. 36 is ridiculous, by the way. Is that what they said?
That's an exterior door. Yeah, 36 is an exterior door. So they're saying that's what
it's ridiculous to think that the inside of your house is going to have 36-inch doors.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ludicrous.
Yeah, because the standard is 32, and then like 28 is very common. So.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess they think that you're just going to take it in and then sit it down right in your living room. You know, so a sliding glass
front room only.
My sliding glass door doesn't open up to 36, I'm pretty sure. Because my sliding glass doors, they have 2 of them in this house, and they're both on kind of small walls. So I do think that you'll be able to do this, especially with a sectional, because you'll be able to design it exactly how you want. And usually the way that I've done it in the past is I've done a love seat in the center for me and my wife, and with arms on either side, and then a extra seat on either side of that. And it's all attached. You can sometimes get them in a U-ish shape, if you're sort of like a boomerang shape, if you want to do it that way. But that's how I've done it in the past. So that's my recommendation. Okay. And I think that you'll be able to find something within this price range, no problem.
Yeah, when I looked at these Pottery Barn ones and I looked up on the website, they don't make any mention of removable seat backs. I still don't entirely believe it because it's unusual, but I mean, if they say, no, these are not removable seat backs, then I'll take them at their word. They do mention that the feet are removable, and I was like, there's got to be a way to get this into a regular house, and I would think it would involve taking them out of the box and then having to tilt them on their sides, right? And then you slide through just the armrest portion, and then you have to like pivot it around your doorway to get the back through. Like I could see that potentially being the case with the feet removed, because it's not going to fit if the feet are on there. But yeah, I don't blame you for not wanting to.
My couch, which is from a sectional, came, I think it's got 2 very large seats, right? It's kind of the way that it works. And they're extra wide. And my doors are not 36. I assure you they're not. Yeah. And these chairs do not come apart. The backs do not come off. And they got them in. It got them in there, no problem. I think I think they're wrong. I think you can definitely get them in there. I think Rob's right. But I don't blame you for not canceling it, because I think I would too.
I don't think if you left them in the shipping box that they'd fit through anything other than an exterior door. That I would believe in a heartbeat. But I think if you unpack them and tilt them on their sides, there's got to be a way. But anyway, whatever. There are alternatives, and that's totally fine. So whenever I think of let's try and get some very nice home theater recliners at reasonable prices, my number one thought is HTMarket. I really, really like their seats. I would very happily go for them as my very first choice, regardless of price. I really like the designs. They put all the controls for their seats on the cup holder instead of having to reach down the side of your seat. So I really like HTMarkets. They've got a huge selection of recliners, and you can get them in any configuration that you could possibly want at very reasonable prices. I think the one that you might like the best if you want the look to stay the same is a new design of theirs. It's called the Surround Contemporary. And they go for right around $1,400 per seat. So you're talking less than $6,000 to get 4 of them. And they actually have a cool headrest that can go all the way down. So if you don't want to block your surround back speakers from reaching your ears, you can get rid of the headrest in a motorized fashion. But they've got a whole selection there, and I think you'll find something that you really like from them. The other very popular one, of course, is Valencia. They tend to cost just a little bit more than HTMarket, but not very much so, and have lower prices, at least available, than a lot of other home theater seating options. In their cinema series, they have quite a few very nice, affordable designs, and they have some very expensive seats from Valencia as well. But I'm quite certain you can find something that fits your price range. Whether or not it'll have exactly the looks that you want, I'm not sure. I'm certainly only showing in the photo a very small selection of what they have available, but those are their less expensive ones. So anyway, I don't know what else you want to do here, Tom. David's is quite long, so, and I did answer him by email, so we can probably go. I'd love to get the other ones out of the way if we could, so maybe we can go down to Nick and beyond.
How long has this podcast been going on?
Over 2 hours. 2 hours and 5 minutes now. So.
I have things happening today, so I actually have 2 different people coming to this house in the next hour and 15 minutes. So, let's just we'll do Nick real quick.
Yeah.
Can we suggest, Nick says, can we suggest a 48-inch speaker, 48-inch tall speaker stand? He uses 4 Ascend Acoustics HTM 200 SE speakers as a surround backs. All 3 of them are wall mounted, and he likes their current height. There's no physical wall on the right side where he wants to put the 4th speaker. A 48-inch tall speaker stand would put it the same height as others. He found some professional monitor stands that you can adjust to make them the desired height. They have larger plates than necessary, and he doesn't love their looks. So ideally, the new stands would look somewhat like the Sonance stands that he uses for his front speakers. Any suggestions? 48 inches, 4 feet. That's awfully tall.
Unusually tall. Yeah, it's even a little bit unusually tall for the professional monitor stands. He linked to a couple that say they can go up to 50 inches tall, and even that is a little bit unusual, I've got to be honest. So, unfortunately, I have to say no. I don't know of any 48-inch tall speaker stands or adjustable ones that have the very similar look to the Sonance metal speaker stands that you have. The only ones I can think of that can get that high are the very same type that you found, the professional monitor stands. I typically look at Yorkville when I think of that brand. Now, the only ones that immediately jump to my mind look even less than the speaker stands that you want to, because when I'm going to one that's that tall, I actually want something that can secure the speaker that's on top of it.
Grab onto it.
Yeah, I like the Yorkville SKS 500B, functionally for a stand that's capable of getting as tall as 57 inches. It's got the type of plate design at the top with a way to secure your speakers to it that I would prefer. I've also found that quite a few of the professional monitor speaker stands that normally only go up to 45 or 46 inches, so even finding ones that go to 48 is a little bit unusual, but they wiggle a bit, and especially when you extend them, they wiggle quite a bit, and I don't know how confident I feel in that. So, I was going to point to the Yorkville SKS 500B, but they definitely do not have the looks that you were hoping for.
Gaylen has owned a pair of RBH signature speakers for something like 15 to 20 years now. He had the T1 center, the T2 modular speakers in the subs for his front, left, and right. These were the speakers that for years Gene had.
That's right.
At Audioholics.
Yeah.
He also had the 6-inch woofer bookshelf speakers for surrounds and surround backs, and we'll show some pictures of this.
Yes. They're all discontinued, but you can have a vague idea of what they used to look like.
Oppressively large speakers. They are they're however big you think they look in this picture, they are bigger than that.
Yeah. No, those were like 8-inch woofers, and there's 4 of them, and then there's a triple tweeter design that's nested inside of them. They are big honking speakers.
Yeah. So amazingly, RBH still supports these older models, and he recently paid to have his front 3 speakers upgraded to the signature reference versions. All of the drivers and crossovers were replaced, and he genuinely hears a big difference. He thinks they sound great. The thing about RBH is when they say they're going to make something sound better, generally they do that. It's not a mod.
It's a little bit more than just a mod. Yeah, no. When you replace all the drivers, that can make a measurable difference. Yeah, that can really be true.
So he's debating whether or not to have his surround and surround back speakers upgraded for all 4 speakers. The price quoted to him by RBH is $900. And
which sounds crazily reasonable.
I know. I'll be honest with you. I know how much these speakers cost to begin with, and that's not much.
Like, if you had said $900 each, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right to me. Like, he said it's for all 4 of them. He was quoted $900. So I don't know. Maybe that was just purely the language. Maybe it is $900 each. That would actually make more sense.
So in truth, he's also debating on how important it is for him to keep the surround back speakers. If you were to remove them, he wouldn't drop down to just a 5-speaker setup. He would reposition the surround back speakers as front heights if you were to do anything.
Yeah.
Have them go from not doing much to even doing less. So what do we think? Upgrade both pairs, upgrade just one pair, only upgrade one pair if they are moved to front height duty. Sell one pair and use it to upgrade the money you get to upgrade the other pair. The surround back speakers are fine. You've already got them. I'm not going to say get rid of them.
Yeah.
No world in which I'm going to say move them to the front and put them at front height. I have never seen a pair of speakers have less impact on my life than in front height speakers. I'm just like, it's just like, they're just up there, just doing nothing, just like bored out of their minds. And when they do something, you're like, didn't hear you because everything else was also doing something.
Yeah,
so
not literally nothing.
Thanks for trying.
You could get up on a ladder and put your ear next to them. Like, they are making sound. They actually are. But boy, oh boy. The reverse of that, if you were going to upgrade them, I probably would only upgrade one pair of them. But they would not be the front heights. They would not be the surround backs. They would be the surrounds. I'm like, if I'm going to make an argument for anything, my side surround speakers, upgrading those, I'm like, okay, I could see my way to doing that. I think if you do have a circling pan, if you're critically listening for it, there's an instance where you're like, okay, I can hear the slight timbral mismatch between my front speaker and my surround speaker. But I'm saying this from truly genuine, from my heart. I like to make light of it, but this is absolutely, truly the way I feel about it. The surround backs, I'm like, those can have a timbre mismatch. And I'm just, in real content, I'm not going to notice it. And my front heights can be just about anything. And I'm not going to notice the timbral mismatch. And like that, I critically listened. I upgraded all of my speakers to stupid ribbon tweeters, which was absolutely not necessary for the front heights or the surround backs. And like, that is my honest advice to you. So I can get on board with being like, I wouldn't mind upgrading one pair of these. And I'm like, yep, do it for your surrounds. Don't do it for the surround backs. And don't move the surround backs to front height duty. I'd leave them in place.
And if I'm being honest, I don't really think that you're going to notice a difference with your surrounds being upgraded. I think that'll be more.
Yeah.
I think that'll be more in your head than it will be in your ears. I think that could be there. RBHs are already so good that upgrading the fronts, okay, sure. Critical listening, okay, fine. Surrounds are like, oh, maybe. Everything else, no.
Yeah.
Everything else a hard pass.
Yep.
Jack has a pair of wireless.
We didn't get his second part because.
I'm sorry. Yeah. On his T2 front left and right speakers, he only paid to upgrade the speaker portion, not the subwoofer portion that doubles as speaker stands. Mm-hmm. The sub portions can also be upgraded to signature reference drivers. He uses those two RBH subs in combination with the SVS 16 Ultra. Do we think it would be worth paying to upgrade the subs? No, and also don't use them as subs, in my opinion, for the most part.
Well, it's not the end of the world. I mean,
but I remember they're not really reaching to 20 hertz all that well to begin with. Back when it depends on the room, of course.
It does.
In Gene's room, they were not big enough. Gene's room, of course, was massive.
Yeah,
but if it were me, I would just use them as tower speakers. I would leave them as is, and then get another, instead of paying for the RBH upgrade, I would just get another 16 Ultra or something equivalent to that.
That part I very much have to agree with. Yeah, because it's like, again, objectively, measurably, there was some added extension and output by upgrading to the signature reference version of those subwoofers, but not a cheap upgrade. Those are expensive drivers, and they had to replace the amplifier in them too, if I recall correctly. So not a cheap upgrade. Yeah, I 100% agree with the idea of whatever money you might have done to do that, get a second SVS sub instead and pair that up. That would be the much more reasonable way to spend that money.
I agree. Jack has a pair of Sony wireless WH-1000 XM3 headphones. The newest XM6 version just recently came out. He's always liked the active noise cancellation that his 1000 M3s have provided. Works really well on airplanes and during yard work. The actual sound quality of the headphones maybe wasn't the best he's heard, but it was fine. Certainly not bad. So now that his XM3 pair are well used and physically kind of worn out, what should he get to replace them? Just pulling it for the newest XM6, or should you be looking at something else now? I would have to see. Are these in-ear monitors? What are these?
These are full-sized headphones, wireless, over-the-ear cans. Now, from some objective third-party measurements that have done on the newest XM6, they're like, this might be the best active noise canceling, like, bar none. Like, better than Apple's, better than Bose's. They're like, yeah, the measurements are like, yeah, this is really good active noise canceling, like better than the XM3s or the XM4s or the XM5s. Sony has continued to improve that. So as far as the active noise canceling goes, the XM6s are getting top marks. How much you love the sound quality, I'm a little bit surprised to hear you say you weren't that big a fan of the XM3s. They're pretty good. They're pretty good headphones. I like them a lot better than the Bose's as headphones. So that much I'll say. But yeah, like you say, certainly not bad. So in the world where, you just get the newest, you get the XM6, I'm like, I don't envision you being disappointed. The only question is, could you get something for significantly less money that would not be a downgrade in either of those categories? And yeah, Tom is probably the better person to answer that, because you've listened to a lot of active noise canceling full-size headphones.
Yeah, who are these people who are doing yard work with full-size headphones on? Because I live in Florida, and I do not. It just would be. I might as well throw the headphones away afterwards, because they're just going to be drenched in sweat, right? And sun bleached. There are
places that are colder and less humid than Florida in the world.
I suppose
they exist, and yard work still needs to be done in those places.
I'm going to be honest with you. If somebody comes to me with this question phrased in the way that this question is phrased, I'm like, you should get the XM6. There is no world in which I'm going to try to convince you to get something else. Right. And the reason is that you already have a very positive mental correlation between this noise canceling and the fact that the reviews are out and also very good for the XM6s. Yeah. I would have no problems with you staying in this room, because ultimately what I want is for you to be happy at the end. I don't need to be right as much as I need you to be happy.
Right.
So if at the end you get something that you're happy with, even though I think you could have gotten something else that was cheaper and or maybe a little bit better, or definitely better sounding, it means nothing to me to be right, because then I'm going to be spending time trying to convince you that I was right and that you shouldn't have gotten the ones that you're already predisposed to want. You are not currently suggesting that you buy yourself something that I disagree with. So I would say go with the XM6.
No, but let's say he wants to find something that is less expensive, because the XM6 are not cheap. So like,
how much are they?
Oh, they're up around the $400 price range. Yeah. So what about like, are the earphones any good? You did some earphones that I thought you were fairly favorable on.
Yes. I'd have to, I was not ready to answer this question because I thought we were done. But yes, most of the Soundcore ones I have loved. Now, do I think that they have, and in the earphone too, do I think that they have the best noise canceling? I think that their noise canceling has over time gotten much, much better.
Right.
The Space ones were the ones that I really, really liked. They're less than $100.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, they're next to $100.
Like I was just thinking, some of these are almost like, because of that, they're almost at the point where you could take a flyer, order them from Amazon, and if you really don't like them, return them. But they're almost worth like just see what you can get for around $100.
The Space ones I had, and I really, really like them. And unfortunately, I no longer can give you an opinion of them because my son stole them. And he will not give them back. And he comes home and he charges them and then he leaves. So, yes, they are very good. The earphone ones, I feel like, are of equivalent goodness.
Okay.
But they're a little bit cheaper.
Yep.
In every way.
Okay.
So they feel cheaper. They are less expensive, generally speaking. Their app isn't as good.
Okay.
But the Soundcore is in their more recent headphones has been moving away from the traditional ANC, the traditional, like, we turn it on, we turn it off. It has like high, medium, low or something like that, or that sort of stuff. This is like a 10-point scale now, where the middle of it is it is always engaged, but sometimes it lets it like pipes noises in from the outside that it thinks you want, versus it being
just on or off,
just trying to cancel, and it's either failing or succeeding.
Right.
So I think the Soundcore is really pushing in my mind, how we are thinking about ANC, and we'll see what they do in the future. I haven't gotten a headphone in for review for a while, but once we get this computer,
yeah, sounds like it's worth a look at the very least, though, just because the price is significantly different, and it might be exactly what you're looking for. So
yeah. So that's
all right. So Infinite Gary and David are left for next week, and there we go. We'll start off with them.
All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank, there we go, Gurinder and Dan for going to avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 124 patrons over at patreon.com.
That is right. Gurinder and Dan, thanks so much for the PayPal donations, and patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 124 patrons over there.
We want to thank those who send in notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going, from Davide. If I say that right?
You did.
I think I did. Alan, Karl, Infinite Gary, Micah, David, Gurinder, and Jack. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time. We got Davide, Alan, Karl, Infinite Gary, Micah, David, Gurinder, and Jack. Thanks so much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.